pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have that email, right, with all the links?
Yeah. This one? Roll.
Fasting.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl. Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Here.
Steffes.
Okay, let's start with State Senate Scholar.
All right. We have Mr. Karsten Bakken, who was our State Senate Scholar. And Karsten, why don't you stand up and share a little bit about the experience?
Okay, so I was chosen to represent our Senate district at the Senate Scholar Program in Madison. So it's a week-long program where I spend learning about the Capitol, learning about what the Senate does and the different bureaus that work for the Senate. And it's actually led by Dr. Tammy Worley, who is a parent in this community. So it was really fun. Spent it with 10 other students from across Wisconsin, so you get to know them. You get to know your own state senator. So I met with Howard Markline and I got to talk with them for a while. It was good fun.
And what is one of your potential career aspirations?
Through the program you get the chance to be a page, and heading to UW-Madison next year, those students are also able to work as pages for the Senate. So I think that's something I'm going to definitely do next year. And I'm glad that I did this program because I found that path.
So congratulations. Carson, we'll have you come around and the board members will want to shake your hand.
You want to start on?
No.
Oh, we're next. You can exit this way. Perfect.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it's up to you. Want to start this way, or?
Yep. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
He's guessing.
Yep, he's got it.
All right, State FBLA, I'll turn it over to the advisor, Mrs. Bach.
Oh, great, I see some pictures up there, cool. So my name is Kip Bach, and so I am our Future Business Leaders of America advisor, and so these are some of my senior FBLA members, 3 of whom are officers, 1 honorary officer. Also want to introduce Cole Wilson. He was also the state FBLA vice president, so that's the first time that our Mineral Point chapter has actually had a state officer, so it was a pretty big deal. So we had, let me look at my notes, 13 members qualified for state leadership, so they had to have earned 1st through 3rd place at the Regional Leadership Conference in February. They do also offer some state-only competitive events, so we ended up taking 17 competitors, and we had a lot of success. We didn't have any national qualifiers this year, like last year, but we had quite a few kids place at state. Kirsten placed 6th in business law, and Tatum Novak placed 6th. We had another group that did our chapter annual business report. They placed 6th. Brady Polska placed 6th in coding and programming. So we had a lot of 6th place. It was the year of 6th place for Mineral Point. But the kids had a great time. So Cole also serving as the state vice president. Why don't you tell a little bit about that experience?
I was elected back in, I believe it was May of last year, and this is kind of the pinnacle of my term. The big state leadership conference was where we kind of, me and my fellow 11 officers really facilitated the conference. And this was, like Ms. Bakken said, a very special moment for me. Kind of, handling such a big task while being with my chapter members and, having a good time. It was a great conference overall, and just my term, overall was a great experience for me as a student. And I'll definitely cherish it moving forward.
And we also, as your role, you were also March of Dimes Liaison, which is the national partner for FBLA. And how much did we raise? Do you remember?
We raised $2,700 grand total at the conference.
Which is-
A lot of that was peddling ribbons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I
is a
personally
lot
sold
more
about
than we
100.
had in the past. And due in part, really, he could sell
Oh, yeah.
ice
Easy.
to Eskimos, I think. So there's a picture of actually Cole and us and myself backstage at the closing ceremonies. And there's some of the kids.
That's me up there.
So we had a great experience, and we took some additional kids to the Legacy Academy. They have kind of a leadership component, so kids that don't qualify, that want to take on a role in leadership in the chapter can do that too. So.
Congratulations.
Quick question. I was reading, I think we got some chapter recognitions that maybe we haven't got before.
We did,
Could you
yeah.
talk about that a
Oh,
little
thank
bit?
you. Yes, I will. I actually brought
What
them.
the projects were that
So, so this year, for the second time in a row, we've earned the Gold Seal Chapter of Merit Award, which really has to do with making sure that we prepare a program of work. We have goals in place. We have activities designated that we want to do in the areas of education, service, and kind of fun and membership is what they call it. And then also a big one this year. For the first time, our chapter earned the National Outstanding Chapter Award, which also came with a $750 prize that went to our chapter. So, due in part to the great leadership that I had with my senior officers, we completed 20 membership, community service, and education activities, which we do a lot of those anyway, but then we also have to make sure that we report and submit all of those for this recognition. So it was a lot of work, but the kids did a great job. And so.
Yes.
Start outside, yeah.
I didn't mean to laugh, you with the door, I'm really sorry.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Wainwright, we had a request to skip forensics for right now. Ms. Favors on her way, so we're moving to honors choir.
Thank you.
Hi. Here I am again. Student Les, she's at a softball game today, but she wished she could be here. Sage, as we knew, was selected for the treble choir at the Honor State Project on the first round, and Jasmine made it to the alternative list. So she was then selected when someone decided not to go for whatever reason, and we have the blessing and honor of 2 of our students going to the State Honors Project this year, and first and ever, as far as I know. So it's really exciting for our program and these 2 young ladies. So, yay! They're not here. Yay! So, but all that information's in the paper, so you guys can check it out and say hi when you see them in person. I'm sure they appreciate it. And this is solo ensemble, state level, instrumental and vocal. I'm representing both and this isn't even everybody either. We have a lot of students representing us at the state level this year, including the front row. So that was really exciting. Yeah.
You just sit in front row.
We had 3 middle schoolers join us at the state level this year, contending with high schoolers. And then we had a whole bunch of ensembles, solos, duets, trios, instrumentally and vocally at the state level as well this year. And I want to say our large ensembles were unable to participate this year, but they did perform at the concert, so check that out on the YouTube channel. Thanks, Joel. And they still sounded beautifully, but everyone else did get to compete even though there was that crazy storm. So we're really grateful that the kids were dedicated enough to still make it, and they were really flexible that day with all the cancellations. They were able to jump up earlier, so they were able to actually attend and participate, and they placed very high, very well. And Jasmine actually was runner-up for the Elite Singer of the Day. All the judges get together and they say their favorite picks and they collaborate and discuss, and she was runner-up for the whole day as a freshman, so it was really exciting too. We've never had that honor as far as I know either, so it was a good year for the music department. Good job, guys. Yeah, go around, say thank you for their support, please. They definitely do support you.
And it was another one of those wonderful Saturday Wisconsin freak snowstorms, and got several of the students for being able to get there.
Come out this way. Come this way. Congrats. Congrats.
Anybody skills even
Thank you.
Are you the lone skills man?
There should be Cody, but I'm not sure where he's at. So.
He came back. Okay, Mr. Carey was unable to attend tonight. I asked that a couple of representatives from Skills USA show up. Gentlemen, why don't you kind of talk a little bit about the process at the state tournament, and maybe were you in the same or were you in different competitions?
We were the same.
Yeah, different teams though.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and at least explain the competition you were in and how it works at state.
Well, excuse me. So mine, it was the first year that I did this. Ours was the Team Engineering Challenge, which basically they give you a certain situation where it's kind of mocks real world situations that you would get put in as an engineer. And so this year it was, we built a toy boat using the materials that we could buy with the fake money that we were given. And so we filled out sheets, bought the materials, and then using those materials, we built a boat that was supposed to catch cargo or marbles and take it from one end of like a tub, a really long tub of water, from one end to the other, being pushed by a fan. So we tried to figure out the best ways to get it in terms of like what would be pushed the most by a fan, how could we catch the most marbles as possible, and how efficient can we actually make this boat.
And yeah, he pretty covered most of it, but that's not really the main part because it's all about points kind of a thing. And I'd say that building the boat is probably like 1/5 of like the actual total of the scoring. The other 80% is probably the interviewing, because you have to explain why you chose these materials and the sales pitch and all that, which is really a big part of it. So, yeah.
And there are different areas within Skills USA. You'll see a picture come up. Another student, Harley Vosberg. Here we go. That she actually created that here and welded that piece together and took that for competition. So I had to sign off saying, yep, she created it, didn't buy it, whatever. So I mean, there are different layers. There are the problem-solving teams. There, I see Denise here. Joey took a piece of furniture when Joey Gorgon was in high school. He took a piece of furniture there. We've had people compete in the culinary activities. So there are different areas within Skills USA that kids can choose to compete. So we've done very well over the years. We didn't have anybody going on this year, if I understand correctly. But again, the experience of what these guys had to go through, it's kind of that, you know, Houston, we have a problem. This is what he has in the space capsule. And so these guys, here's what you have. Go ahead and build it. So hopefully a great leadership and a great set of minds moving forward for us.
I got a
So,
question.
Yes.
Were those uniforms mandated, or was that your idea, dress like?
Yeah, we had to wear a certain.
Yeah, otherwise we would, lose points in the
Okay.
actual thing.
You look smart.
Kind of a throwback to the 60s, huh? They had the pencil tie. Well, congratulations, fellas. This way. Congratulations.
Thanks again for having this group. We just got to be here again last month, so that was great. So different item for us here tonight with our state career development event qualifiers. Again, we're a little short tonight. There's a lot of activities between baseball, golf, some softball, and things going on. So we had 4 of our 12 that got to go on to state to be with us. Just to kind of give the results, so we had a meets team, which was Maggie Schubert, Danny Pitts, Logan Schmitz, and Morgan Bonder that placed 7th in the state. Our livestock judging team, which we have 3 of them here, Ryan Schubert, Joey Robinson, Emma Steffes, and Kyle Bonder, were 2nd in the state, with Ryan placing 8th as an individual, Emma 17th, Joey 18th, and Kyle was 22nd. Our wildlife team, which was led by Brett Roberts, who happens to be here with us, and when I say led by us, he was 5th individually in the state as well for that team. And that team consisted of Brett, Mason Hughes, Larry Steffes, and Kane Gunderson. And so they all did well. And on the FFA side of things, in order to get to the state career development events, you have to qualify through the regional. And basically it comes down to out of the regional, about the top 10 teams get to move on. And we were fortunate to have 3 teams that placed in the top 10 to do that. For our livestock team, that's being 2nd means they were 1 place away from going to nationals again, which would have been very nice. But what's also nice about the team is they're very young, 2 8th graders and a 9th grader on that team. And so we hope that next year we'll grab a few more points and be the winners next year. So,
Congratulations.
thanks for having us.
Great.
So these are representatives from our state, from forensics. All of these were state contenders. You can enter up to 25 entries, and it's a combination of individual and group. And we sent 17 kids to state this year, 10 of which got gold medals, and everyone else got either silver or bronze. And so it was a really wonderful year. I was really proud of our kids and the hard work they did, practice they put in. Mr. Kevin here stepped in at the last minute, got qualified to go to state, and ended up with a gold medal at state, like, had to learn it, like, so that was pretty, that just says something about him and his skills. Anybody else have anything you'd rather hear from them?
How do they qualify for state?
Well, you have to get, what is it, there's it's just like the same concept as like regional, sectional, state. So you have to get over in 2 of it. So you sorry. See, I'm not very.
Speaking.
Yeah, I was impromptu too. So they give you time to prepare. So I mean, that's not really fair. You put me on the spot. So at the equivalent of regionals, you have to get you speak 3 times, and you have to get over an 18 on 2 of them. Otherwise, you don't make it. And so, me personally, I got like a 24 and 2 23s or something like that. And so that automatically qualified me for sectionals. And you have to get over 2 20s. Is it 20s? Okay, you have to get over 2 20s. And then you speak 3 times. And I got like 23, 23, and 20 or something like that. And then at state, you speak one time, and I got like a 23, which is a silver medal. So basically, it's the same concept. You just go through the 3 different rounds. Yeah, and I did impromptu
You have to
speaking.
get a 25 at state to get a gold medal. That's the highest score.
State's only one round.
One
Yep.
round, yep, one and done. So to have 10 and gold, and it's a really, I'm just so proud of them to get up there.
Yeah, this
speak
is,
in front of people.
This is my first year actually competing, because last year I was going to do like moments in history, but I didn't write the speech because I had wrestling practice. so I told Staver at the last second I had to drop out. But this year, Mrs. Staver told me to do impromptu speaking, which is something I'm pretty good at. I like to just make stuff up on the fly of it. Obviously, I'm pretty good at that. I remember Staver telling me that a teacher who used to teach here, they were grading this, and they looked at each other and said that I'd be pretty good at it. So I decided to go out for it, and I succeeded pretty well. So.
And every student up here, except Kevin was in play acting, so that is a script, but all wrote or put together their pieces together. So it's been really wonderful watching their development and how they've gone. How many of you are 4-year? 2? So.
This was actually my first year, and it was not at all what I was expecting. I didn't know there was categories that you could, have something prepared like a script. I thought you had to memorize it. Also, I'd never done it before because I was like, with everything else I've got going on, it's going to be too crazy. But with the script, it was really, really fun. I'll definitely do it again next year.
Forensics is probably the club that I've learned the most from, and the one I've probably valued the most. I was really afraid of speaking, and I still don't really like speaking, but I've gotten a lot better at it, so it's been the most valuable thing I've probably done in high school.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Have a nice
Probably the same little. No, we did that. But
Okay, that's it for that, right? Yes. We're done.
Okay, let's move on. Got a long agenda. Election of officers. This year presently, I'm president, Nate is vice president, clerk is Dr. Lindsay, and treasurer is Larry. Larry, since you were late, they kind of did a straw vote. You're already the two delegate. You were nominated elected by the delegates. So that's fine. Okay, so let's take nominations for.
Are you interested in being president?
Yeah, why not? It's my last year. I might as well go out and bang.
All right, I'll nominate Jeff Basting to be president.
I'll second.
Is there any other nominations?
Close the nominations.
Motion closed.
Motion to close.
Second.
Do we have to roll on it, do we? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Anybody opposed?
If there's only one, you can just be a voice vote.
Thank you all. So Vice President this year is Nate. Do we have a nomination for VP?
We'll nominate Nate Chambers.
Second.
We've got a second right here with.
Any other nominations?
Nominations are closed.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Congratulations, Nate.
Thank you, Pete.
Clerk was Dr. Lindsay.
I'll nominate Dr. Lindsay to serve as clerk.
Second.
Any other nominations? All those in favor, say aye, please.
Motion to
Close
close
nomination.
nomination.
Okay, well, sorry, I was trying to rush it.
I'll second the motion.
Dr. Dunn.
Done.
Okay. Now, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And treasurer was Larry this year.
Nominate Larry for treasurer.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Done. Anybody else be nominated?
Motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Congratulations, Larry, Don, Nate. Okay, so we need a CISA 3 delegate. Anybody want to volunteer?
Can we leave that open until
Later.
we get the, I mean, it's the last Thursday in July or something?
There is a meeting that they need, a quorum of the school districts, and that is, we thought this Thursday.
Oh, is that the one that you and I were talking about?
I think so. I think they need, or at least they need to have somebody as a representative from the school. This one can be attended, you could go to Dodgeville and attend through telepresence, basically, distance learning.
I can't do it because I'm going to be at the scholarship night. So we'll match
You said it's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, yes.
I could probably use a lot of soccer practice and put that instead.
I nominate Nate to be CISA 3 delegate.
Thanks, buddy.
I'll second that.
I got a pretty good memory. I don't know. This is a term. He does not get the veto pen.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I will just scan it in and send it to your school email, that information that I have.
Crosby delegate.
I nominate Dr. Dunn.
I will second that.
Waiting for that.
Anybody else want to go besides that?
Well, and certainly we can.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yep.
Do you have to be designated a delegate to attend the convention?
You're the voter.
Oh, okay.
The delegate is the one that casts the vote on behalf of the school district, but more people can attend the board meeting, but it's, the delegate is the one who casts the ballot.
Okay.
And if something comes up that Doc can't go, we could send somebody else.
Correct.
Okay. All those in favor of Dr. Dunn, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Doc. Appointment of secretary. You want to make a motion that we appoint Angie again?
So moved. Second.
Angie, would you have a second, Dr. Lindsay or Dr. Dunn?
On what?
And your appointment.
I didn't, okay.
Dr. Dunn? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? There would be. Okay, meeting time, 6:30 on Monday night. Is that okay with everybody, or do you want to change it?
I would like to look at changing it to the third Monday. Even though we've been the second Monday for longer, I believe. I don't think that the city's gonna change theirs. And I just think if there's only 2 elected boards in the city, the electorate should have an opportunity to attend both if they want. But I don't
On the
know
first
if
Monday, but
there's
that's just one work.
standing conflicts on the third Monday.
There was going to be issues with paying bills. if we go to the third, it's also the same problem with the first.
We would need to notify any of our vendors that the board meeting is just going to take place a week later. But moving it to the first Monday of the month would not
work.
No, you'd probably see Marcia walk off the job. No.
How many vendors per month are waiting for a decision at our board meeting?
Fair amount.
Yeah, there would be, you take First Student in Taher, Aramark, those are the ones that just come to mind. Dependable Solutions, our computer stuff.
Just everything that's in bills payable that we
A
review?
lot of the things in bills payable that you see every month would be the vendors that we would just need to notify for their billing cycle.
Well, it is to my understanding that the city council just started meeting on the second Monday.
A year ago now.
Well, the big picture, we've been meeting, this school's been meeting forever almost on the second Monday. And I would never support moving this meeting.
I kind of am with you. I did talk to the mayor and he was going to get back to me and unfortunately he hasn't, but he didn't seem too up for changing theirs back to something else.
And I understand they start at 5:30. I don't know how long their meetings last, but there's still opportunity and maybe greater opportunity for if you're at one meeting just to slip up here to this meeting.
Well, we don't have a second to Andy's motion, do we?
Was it a motion?
It wasn't a motion, he was
Oh,
recommending. Just
he
recommending.
said recommended.
No, I
Oh,
was
sorry.
considering.
Make him move it if you want to.
Yeah. Do one of you guys want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we leave it with the schedule that Mitch has presented.
Okay, do we have a second? Anybody? Okay.
Should we second so we can vote on it? Is that what
Yeah.
If you don't second it, it dies.
Or discuss
Yeah,
it.
wait.
I would make a motion that we move it to the third Monday of the month.
Wait a minute, what happened? The last one didn't die because there wasn't a second?
I hadn't called that yet. I was waiting, giving you guys one more minute.
All right.
But I thought Dr. Dunn was going to say second. You're not going to say second? Okay. Okay, so that motion failed. Andy, you want to make yours?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move it to the third Monday.
Is there any conflicts looking out, Mitch, third Monday on any particular month?
You know, occasionally there is maybe a non-conference winter sporting event on a Monday. We would, if it went to the third Monday, we'd probably avoid the Christmas program, the concert that is usually a conflict. If you remember this year, there was a couple that ran out because of the winter holiday concert, band concert.
Oh, the band concert.
Right. So if it would move to the third, we would probably avoid that issue.
I'll second the motion so we can continue discussion. Question for you there, I mean, I get why you don't want to change it. Is there any reason why the third Monday is not good if we were to change it, in your mind?
Again, the city council moved theirs to the second Monday. Are they gonna move to the third Monday since we have ours on the third Monday now? I mean, what was their reason to move it to the second Monday, I guess?
Well, you probably talked to...
They went from Tuesday night to Monday, and my comment was, well, why didn't you just go to Tuesday night on the second week? And he told me that they're gonna probably go to 2 meetings a month. So if we go to the third, we may still have a problem with that. I'm with Larry, I'm not in favor of changing our
And have we checked with the town boards, when are their meetings?
Second Tuesday.
Tuesdays. Okay.
That's why they changed it.
I think they would rather do council work, the people on the council, maybe they couldn't meet on Tuesday night.
Not sure. But I'm with Larry, if it is on the same night and theirs starts at 5:30, they could make both meetings. And if it's something important, we always move stuff around. The taxpayer should be able to go to the council meeting at 5:30 and get done and still be able to come to our meeting.
Well, you did have a conflict, didn't you, Doc, with the same person?
Correct. Well, you know, Demi was
Right, so
the
could
city
that,
clerk as well as the township clerk.
so that could
And
change.
she's resigned
The
the
city.
city, so.
So so it could change.
Was that the reason they moved it then?
I didn't ask. To be honest with you, I didn't ask.
That's an interesting piece of information.
Any other comments?
That was a conflict.
I just feel like it's not, it doesn't seem like too much of an imposition to change it to the third Monday, unless Mitch, you want to say otherwise, but I feel like Andy's point of the benefits of allowing the public to attend both meetings without trying to cram two meetings into one night, I think is a good gesture. It's not too difficult for us to do. I mean, I don't see the point of standing on principle or tradition or trying to be the tail that wags the city council dog to get them to move the meeting, you know. It just doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me.
Well,
I think the public would appreciate it.
Maybe before we do such a move, we should get an official response from the mayor then, telling the board that they are not going to move their meeting, and their meeting is going to be on the second Monday from here on out.
Yeah.
And so if we don't like it, then we need to change it.
Well, I think you got a good point, Larry, because what if they go to 2 meetings a month then? And if we're trying to make this so people can attend these meetings in public, you know, awareness and involvement, we need to know, let's say they go to the second and third, then we're out of luck. So we know if they're gonna go to second and fourth, or, I mean, I guess. it'd be
Has
my
there
thing to
been
ask.
a lot of concern or comments from people that can't make the meeting? We would have to.
I will withdraw my motion. I will make a motion, we only schedule for June 10th and determine on June 10th our meeting schedule for the current calendar year, or current board.
Would you mind adding to that we discuss with the city what their intention is?
Well, I think that's why we're delaying it.
Okay, yeah,
And they're in turmoil right now without
I know.
a city clerk, so.
When is their administrator supposed to be on board?
They haven't even started yet. Haven't got them hired yet.
Well, they're searching, but they must have a time in mind that they're going to have one hired.
They're trying to get their city clerk first.
They've got major headaches without a city clerk.
Yeah. Okay, so Andy's motion is, which is good.
I'll second Andy's motion.
June 10th, we'll keep that, and then we'll make the decision then.
So then is it, we're going to ask Mitch to find out from the city what's going on with
Yeah, I still like to have that.
It does seem like there's some uncertainty.
I agree.
The city council, and maybe we get a clerk administrator in or whatever, and once they settle in, then we'll have a better idea. It's going to be a long-term schedule for.
But we may not know by June 10th on clerk's.
Well, I'm giving them a month, and I'll make my motion next month.
I mean, I don't think this is a super urgent issue. You know, I mean, if it takes us a few months to sort it out, but as long as we have the intent to maybe not meet on the same night, that's the goal I support.
Yeah. I also think long-term, we've got some issues about the elementary development, because we've talked about approaching the city in regards to some specific items, water pressure, one-way streets, you know, the series of things that come up in the building meetings. So I think we should try to.
Oh, sooner than later?
Well, I mean, at least find out their schedule and try to be accommodating so
Well, I
that
will
we
tell
can
you,
interact.
the mayor had no problem with us having it on the same night. So,
okay.
That was one.
That's the current
comment he
mayor,
said,
you
so-
might say.
But we have a motion and a second, so let's call the question, Angie.
And this is to keep it June 10th
then
and
we'll
then
decide.
find out what
We're
the
basically
city's
tabling it
plans
for a
are.
month.
Okay. Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yeah.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Okay, determination of board salaries, currently $600 a year.
Move that we keep them the same.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? Do you want to call a question, please?
I think in the past, Jeff, maybe for future reference, this should be on last month's agenda, or the month before, so the old board sets the salaries for the new board. Is that how we've done it in the past, Jeff?
No, it's always been in May.
That's what it was last year, was in May.
During the organizational one. Last year, remember, we had a very lengthy discussion, and I was hoping we weren't going to do that again.
All right. I agree, yeah. And there are some some board members that do not take the per diem.
Any board member has the right to sign it back to the school, and I believe there's been one or two that has done that. Okay, let's call the question now.
Dahl.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Thank you. To call you today on the standing committees. Do we want to change anything, or can we just?
I think if you wish to remain on the same committees in the same positions, you certainly can.
But pleasure of you gentlemen. Angie, do you know who was on which committee?
I'm fine with saying on operations and things like that.
Yeah.
Sorry. Policy. I'm fine personally.
I'd like the setup the way it is now. I'd like the setup if we want to extend it for another year.
Keep the same chair, co-chair.
Keep it fine.
You certainly can make that motion.
Move that we keep the standing committees the same as last year, the same chair, co-chairs, members.
I'll second. For sake of discussion, have we declared an open session who's on the building committee, which is kind of like would be like a short-term committee
For
the referendum?
elementary? We have not done that.
No.
At this point.
You would name it basically like an ad hoc.
I think that we should, but don't you think we should maybe wait till after we get the boring results, or no? Because they're gonna be in the next
It
week
would
or
probably be
so.
helpful, that kind of gives a real solid direction as to what happens next.
Well, let's do not recommend, let's,
Start the process.
Just as long as it's clarified at some point in open session.
I think that, well, let's finish this. We have a motion and a second to keep all standing committees. Let's call the question on that, please.
Dahl.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes.
So you have your CISA 3 and your WASB delegate already.
A building committee, can we even actually
You can set
appoint
that. Sure.
that tonight? Or can we, because it really was not on the agenda that way, but I think that.
Well, you can discuss how you want to proceed with that, but setting the committee would have to happen then in a posted, on a posted
Okay.
agenda.
So that's, I think, what's your thoughts?
Well, tell me what's currently going on, because, you're meeting Thursday mornings and.
I've only been to one.
Those are meetings I
So
think
that's the core group, so myself, Roger, Mitch,
Matt.
Matt, basically,
Everett's been in a couple.
yeah, you were there for the one, not the last one.
Yes, it was.
You were?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were, we were talking.
I've been to all
Sorry,
of
Don.
them. That's
Sorry,
all
Don.
right.
I'm the one that.
I've
Yeah,
been to
someone-
everyone.
I knew someone, so basically, we just discussed actually some things that are on the agenda here as far as recommendations from HSR. It's just kind of keeping the ball rolling. There's not really been any decisions made, just new, did you hand out the plans? The kind of schematic, the new plans that they came out with?
I do not get that in an electronic format yet. Once I get that, I will send it out. I have a paper copy.
Don't you remember that we kind of decided that they didn't want that out until the borings were done so that they can be more accurate, because this was very preliminary.
There was, yeah, more just for like numbers.
I mean, I will admit, I have shown it to a few people, so I don't really care if you guys want to put yours out there too.
There's some concepts that they put together, but yeah, it's all going to depend on what happens with the site work.
Yeah, it's just been just information, discussions, nothing.
But the nice thing is that, the President Elementary, they're doing borings on the side that faces Mrs. Bennett's old house, parking lot, the building itself, and below. I mean, they are being very thorough.
Yeah.
And they're also doing 3D imaging.
Correct.
Which they will know exactly what our problem is when they get this done.
Great.
Next week, they'll be meeting at the elementary school. And the plan will be to get groups of teachers to be able to get through and take a look at some of the concepts they have and capture any ideas that they can try to pull into that, so.
My main request is that the board, the whole board be kept in the loop as to what happens in those meetings. I mean, I think we're getting an update on your Friday email, but I mean, it'd be nice to know this exact information. And I don't know if it's appropriate to share an open session as a building committee monthly report to the board, or whether it's shared via minutes, you know, in an email or whatever, but.
HSR was willing to be here tonight,
Yeah.
and we said with a rather lengthy agenda, we didn't know if they wanted to stay all night and then drive back to La Crosse.
Plus, they will have a lot more information about the first or second week of June. They'll have the building CAT scan in a sense. They're gonna know what part is moving and where. They'll have all the borings hopefully done. So they'll have a really good handle on the makeup of the building now.
Yeah.
And basically, they're still in the searching information phase.
Well, I think what Dr. Dunn's asking is just give us an explanation of what happens in meetings.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's
Yeah,
it.
Just like you said.
Right, so what they're saying is that we felt that they'd be better off to come to the next meeting, because then they'll have that information. Right now, it's kind of all guesswork.
Right,
Could you do
and I'm
that
not
for us,
saying.
Mitch? Just give
Sure.
us- Yeah.
Can we maybe put on the June agenda the creation of an ad hoc building committee?
Is there
And
any
open it
minutes
up
taken
to-
at that meeting? Is everybody writing down what's going on?
No, they can have a agenda for us, a page or 2 pages, and then their plans, and just brief discussions of what they're doing. That's why we have actually items for action, as a couple of the things that they recommended.
I have a few notes, but quite honestly, it's so preliminary at this point until the borings and the scan get done, that there really isn't a lot to tell us, any of us.
Right.
So
All I'm
we
saying
will
is
put that on June
those comments that you guys just shared were
or
helpful.
something better than nothing.
And that's,
Sorry.
that's
I know
what we
you
talked
thought
about, that's
it,
fine,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's quite impressive what they plan to do.
Yeah, no.
It's really.
And I'm not saying where's HSR to give us a report, although that would have been nice. Even just from one of you guys who's on the committee to say, hey, this is what we talked about, we're waiting for this information, it's gonna be really great, 3D imaging. full
I don't
box.
plan on being.
That's all good to know.
I just want to be nosy.
No, I think the board has a right to.
Oh, yeah,
You
no,
certainly
on top of what-
do, yeah.
what's going on with the
Anybody's
project.
welcome to come, so. Okay, we'll put it on next month's meeting.
Do the group photo before we go to closed session.
Yeah.
We'll wait, skip over that.
Sunshine Fund.
Or good.
Don't really need to discuss that, do we?
No.
That's
Since
bereavement.
since I had it here.
Oh, sunshine.
Yeah,
You want to
Remembered.
it's the shakedown.
That's Jeff.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's move on to board communications. Did anybody, I had down the Southwest thing, but it's already taken care of that, so I didn't have anything else. Did anybody else have any comments they wanted to bring?
Not here.
Okay, Joel, did anybody sign up from the audience? Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak?
We've got 2 that'll come on the next item on your agenda there.
Okay, we'll move into council report with Joey Tang.
Thank you.
There won't be a test on this.
No. We just wanted to keep you informed. Zobug's gonna be, Zoe K is, she did amazing. I'm gonna turn this over to her because this whole day was very student driven. I just kind of facilitated things for them and, you know, did the adult mom kind of, we gotta do this, we gotta go there. But this kid is, this Penn State child is meant for that. She was like having a 30-year-old, no, 40-year-old, like a kid who knew, I couldn't believe the stuff that this child did. So I'm gonna let her go ahead and do it.
So we had our senior student government members we gave everybody a topic and they were supposed to find a speaker. And so we all kind of worked together to gather the 9 speakers that we got. So we had Catherine Bosley, and so she spoke on social media responsibility. So her story, she was a news anchor and she had a couple mishaps and cost to her job, and so she basically told us to all be like responsible with what we do. Tony De La Rosa, who he works for Teach for America, and so he told us about like racial sensitivity and white privilege, which was really interesting, and I think very useful for a lot of people. Paula Schoenberg, and so she is a sexual violence victims advocate, and so she spoke on sexual harassment and assault awareness. Sandy Scott, Judy Sutcliffe, Maggie Tucker, and Lowry White are all Interpoint community members. So they spoke on gender and sexuality, which was very interesting. They did a panel and it was like a Q&A with the students. And Kyle Van Haren is a detective at the UW-Madison Police Department, and he spoke on social media as well. And he was like our keynote speaker first thing in the morning. So the students rotated around to each group with like their RTI groups. So it was like 3 RTI groups in a little session. They would go around. And then Megan Wolf, who's a therapist, she spoke on mental health. So at the end of the day, we came together and kind of like talked about what we learned, and every student made a bracelet with a word on it that resonated with them throughout the day.
And it was pretty neat. The thing I was impressed, they had a microphone, and they're high school kids, I teach them all day, and it's like, they're gonna be done. It was very neat when he said, okay, what'd you get out of the day? And the kids stood up and took it. And really, wasn't it cool?
Yeah.
The kids you wouldn't expect, and they said, I chose this word, and this is why I chose it, and it was pretty neat. It was.
Yeah, and hopefully, like almost everybody got one thing out of the day, and most of them got one thing. That's all we could ask for, really. So.
The packet we gave you was just basically what we, the first time we did it, we didn't really know what we were doing, and we were hoping that, and so we just wanted you to see how we organized it, how we rotated. I feel like the kids said the overall majority was like, yes, they'd like to do it again. We're not sure if it would be an every year thing or an every other year thing, and then change topics. So like as you can see on one of the bullets there, we thought maybe next year going back to, people forget about the whole drugs, say no to drugs, and alcohol, and it's almost like you gotta keep bringing that up, or at least telling them the dangers. We said safety, just safety awareness, like going into, as sad as it is, but the world we live in, like when you sit in a theater, make sure you know where all the exits are, that kind of thing. Like I don't think kids realize. And they said self-defense, making sure you have healthy relationships. So the kids were like, yeah, no, this was a day that they liked and it went well, and I felt like the faculty thought it was a good day. I was super proud, like I said, the best thing was how the kids did this. They took it and ran with it, and it was student driven. So they were all in and invested, and they didn't want kids being disrespectful, and they knew it was going to be some sensitive topics, but it's reality. And that's why I think it was better it came from them. And they were like, poking each other, like, knock it off, and that's why you can see the set of expectations. We were really clear with that when we went into it, that we realized that this could be pretty heavy, and we're not trying to sell anything, we're just trying to open eyes and everybody be humans. Be a better human, so.
We made the kids reflect on the day, and then Joel sent out a survey that they filled out with mostly good comments, and all seemed like they really enjoyed the day or heard from it.
I was super impressed with these guys. I think they were twofold, besides doing a good thing for everybody, it was something a skill that they walk away with, knowing they can organize an event, a workshop, an event, and know what goes into it, so. Did you have any questions at all?
I just would like to say, I'd like to thank you, student government, and the faculty, the students and the staff for doing this. This is a great thing that was done, and makes everybody aware of, sometimes we're in such a small town, we don't always know what goes on out there, and I think this is a great thing.
Mr. Wainwright was excellent support, letting us, every time I walk in, I'm like, all right, I need this, and I'd walk in and he's like, oh. Then I just started sending Zoe.
Yeah, don't kill the messenger. And when they brought me in, the senior student government brought me in and asked, is this possible, can we do this, is there money if some of these speakers, but really it was like, we want this to be a better place, but we also know as they leave here, it won't be Mineral Point replicated at the next stop, whether it's work, a 2-year, 4-year, in-state, out-of-state. And they were hoping to get something to help prepare them. And it's like, it was just a no-brainer to say, yes, let's do this. I can easily support that type of education as well. So again, the students, it was student driven, there's no doubt about it. So I'm proud to say that I get to work here with students like that.
Great job.
Thank you.
Move on to approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion? Approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion, Jim.
Second.
Corrections or any comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay.
She's coming. It's on later. She's on later on the agenda.
Okay, flow through money.
Chair, you guys okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I tried to put together a simple, quick PowerPoint to try and, it's 10 slides, it's not very long. I'm going to start out with special ed funding is not simple, unfortunately, so I'll try to simplify it for you, but there's kind of three sources of money that come into the school. The Fund 10 is the local money that Mitch reports on every year. State money is given to special ed in a fund called Fund 27, and it's given in two different ways, through categorical aid and high-cost aid, and I'll explain those a little bit later. But if you look, the majority of special education funds are really through local costs, and then the state gives you this. It's currently 25 to 26%. In 1975, when special ed started, it was supposed to be 2/3 funding, and it's never really increased above 27, 28%. Governor Evers does want to get it back up there. I mean, you hear it in the news that he wants to get it up to 60%, which would be amazing. But it's kind of always hovered around that 25, 26, 27%. And then the federal is the flow-through money are entitled through federal acts. So we have the IDEA entitlement, high-cost aid, Medicaid, are kind of the three sources we look at. Yes.
So, looks like state is about 25%.
Well, you're reimbursed 25% of what you spend.
Okay.
So we are allocated, and I think it discusses it a little bit about how they figure out that or how they figure out your calculation for the state. But then we are reimbursed for 25% of what we spend out of there the following year.
Yeah, a year later.
Yeah, a year later. So it's not 25% of like the local or anything. You're allocated. So if we're given $100 through state, the next year we'll get $200 or $25 of it back as well. So it's very weird. But so every dollar that we spend on state, if it's an approved categorical cost, then we get 25% of that back the next year. So they in some ways kind of replenish the money that you spent of your state funds.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, it's like I said, I wish it were simple. So the state funding, the categorical aid is addressed in state statutes. Marcia puts together an annual report of how we spend it, and then if those costs are approved, we get reimbursed the following year at that 25, 26, 27%. Most of our categorical costs we use for salaries. Salaries are automatically approved. So that's usually where our state special ed categorical cost goes, is in salaries. We also participate in what's called special education high cost. So we can take the costs for a specific student, and if those costs exceed $30,000 of direct cost based upon their special education services, we can apply to the state to get reimbursed, and then at a much higher rate. So a few years ago it was 90%, last year it was 96% of their cost above $30,000. So we run that every fall. You apply in November, and then we will find out, actually right about now, it's paid out in the end of June, anything that we're reimbursed for with a high cost aid. So
So in a sense, the local district is subsidizing the 4%.
We're trying, yes.
Yeah.
So, but this is just another way that we can try to recover some of the excess costs that special education brings, and especially for those students who have a lot of special education services in their plan. The state has put this in. So I know, like, when you're first going through classes, they say this is one of those things that a lot of districts don't know about, so you want to take advantage of this. Because obviously the reimbursement rate is really high. But it's not always easy to get to $30,000 either, so.
So their funds diminish as people send the thing in?
So, yeah, so,
If
well,
you're raising the table, you don't get.
no, I think everybody who I don't know for sure, but I think everybody who applies, and it's, so the federal dollars are allocated to us, but the state gets to keep a percentage of that, and then they use it for like this fund. So I think sometimes the lower rates are because of the high, I think as far as I know, every district is reimbursed, but the reimbursement percentage isn't always quite as high.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen it less than 90%, which is still pretty impressive, but the last couple of years it's been 95, 96%. And then it's only the cost above $30,000 too, so they don't do that first part. So, you know, we participate in Medicaid, which is a major funding source. So any students who receive special education that are considered a health care or a health service, so it might be speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and one of the other ones is called attendant care services, so students who have a disability where they need redirection and cueing based upon their disability can apply for this, or we can bill for this through a system, but it's got to be in their IEP and it has to meet the Medicaid qualification, so it's not available for every student. But this is actually pretty easy because the state does all the work. They tell us who's eligible and who's not, and it comes directly through them. It's not anything that we have to supply extra. But that is one funding source that we use. And then the flow-through is the biggest one. So Mitch, if you want to go to the next one, please.
Is the Medicaid qualified fees, are those 100% reimbursed by Medicaid?
I don't know the reimbursement for that. I'm sure it's not. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I mean, it's a substantial amount of money, and it's different based upon the different services too. So transportation that's on a specialized route is higher than transportation where you're doing it in a general. I'm assuming that some of the direct therapies are reimbursed at different rates. I don't know that for sure. The state tells, or they tell us that. Our major source is the entitlement funds. Those are the ones you were asking me about. They're set aside through the Individuals with Disability Act. We can use them for students 3 to 21. We submit a budget and then they're reviewed and approved by DPI. And then so I know one of the questions is what can the cost be used for? So they're called allowable costs. They're determined by IDEA statutes and federal grants, and I explain it a little bit more on the next one. Briefly, they're a little wider than state categorical aid. You can use them for staffing, education, any of those things listed there, and I break them down a little bit too, as long as the service is benefiting the student with a disability. They're kind of wide open. So, you know, like one of the questions, there's a checklist online that you go and it's, can you use them for construction costs? You can in certain situations. If the construction cost is to make a door ADA accessible, then we could use that if we had a student with wheelchair needs who needed to get through that door. Or sometimes you'll see them like, if they have a stage and it's not handicap accessible and there's no ramp, you could use IDA cost to build a ramp for that student in a wheelchair to get onto the ramp. So it all comes back down to is, does the equipment benefit somebody with special education? So it's not exhaustive. The next one actually goes into a little bit more. You can use it for salaries. You can use it for assistive technology, apps, anything that we have to do with child find. We can bring in contracted services, maintenance of equipment, accessibility of the equipment or building if it relates to special ed, professional development, substitute, specialized training. This is, the next slide says it's not an exhaustive list. I just tried to pick some to give you an example. And again, everything really ties back to, does it directly relate to a student with a disability? And that's kind of, it's actually pretty broad in the sense that if you can tie it back to the student with a disability, then you can feasibly use IDEA costs. So like one of the things we're doing this summer is we're attending a conference on inclusion and co-teaching. And we're taking multiple staff, but it benefits that program, and the professional development benefits all students. So I can take staff that are not special ed trained to benefit them for this. So it really, we can look at it multiple ways. And that's what we're trying to do, is to figure out how to use this. That money is, the state loves their formulas, so it's non-competitive. Prior to 1997, they used a different formula based on child counts, and then it wasn't found. So now the formula revision doesn't use child count, it counts on your entire school population. So it's the district population of the total enrollment, not specifically students with disabilities. And it's really not even very clear to me how they do it. So but basically they take our enrollment, and that determines what our IDEA federal funds are. It's not specific to how many students do we have receiving special education. It's district-wide, all student population. And that changed in 1997.
So you said that you can submit a budget for these funds?
Yeah.
But then...
We can revise the budget as we go.
But the amount of funds that we get is based on a formula,
right?
Not on a budget we submit.
Right. So what we do is, from what I've seen, you know, I haven't been doing this super long, but this is my 4th year and really kind of my 2nd or 3rd year looking at it. The funds are pretty close year after year because our budget, you know, it's not our population. The total enrollment doesn't change by thousands. I mean, so we kind of look at like last year's, and we know we're going to be close to that approximate amount, and then we base next year's budget on like this year's amount. But when I did like a 3-year running last year, it was within $20,000, which is a lot of money. But when you're doing $263,000 versus $283,000, you can still establish a budget, you know, for around that 260, 270 range. We kind of know it's going to be in there or that. So, you know, Marcia would be able to pull up exactly what we were allocated the last however many years we wanted her to go back, and we can kind of see that average. So it changes in the sense that, you know, our count goes from 880 to 899. Well, those 9 students factor into it, but it's probably only a couple $1,000s that it changes that allocation. So we have kind of an average that we go into it, but we don't know until after the new school year starts what our allocation is.
I had the dumb question.
There is no dumb question, Dr. Dash.
It sounds like, you know, you said you can use it for salaries, you can use it for equipment, you can use it for anything that benefits a disabled student. Why don't we submit the entire special ed budget?
So I'll go into that in the next one, and it's not a dumb question. So there's 2 things. So this is the part where we talked about carryover earlier in the year. July 1st, we get our allocation. It can be used for 27 months. So if whatever we get or what we got last year, July 1 of 18, it goes till September 30th of 2020. So this year's July 1 will go to 2021. But the next part is kind of the biggest one. There's something called maintenance of effort, where you have to be able to show that you're spending the same amount of money, so that you can't just say, we're gonna take a, basically maintenance as effort is we spend the same amount of money every year. Like you can't just automatically spend less than $150,000. You know, like if we spent $500,000 last year, we have to spend $500,000 this year. We can't just automatically say, oh, we're gonna take $150,000 out and save you guys the money, the problem of trying to balance the budget. It doesn't work that way. So we have to be equivalent. There's some formulas the state gives you, like if we have a lot of students move out, or especially high-cost students, like if they graduate or leave the district, that you can adjust your maintenance of effort money. But that's really the big thing, is you can't take such a huge chunk away for what we spent in state and local money last year and just automatically take it out. There are some other parts, like when you do Medicaid billing. If I pay for a special ed aid salary 100% out of Medicaid, or out of flow-through money, that federal money, I can't do Medicaid billing for any of the services that person provides because it's double dipping.
Right.
So it's kind of that balancing act of, and one of the things we're doing next year is we're paying we're rotating some of the salaries, portions of some salaries into flow through to use that as an allocation. So we can still do Medicaid billing for that person, and we still want to be able to get that state reimbursement on the categorical side, because if we took all of our salaries and moved it to federal money, we're going to lose out on the reimbursement on the state categorical aid too. So that's why I said it's complicated, because you want to try and find that nice balance where we can recoup as much categorical aid percent as we can, while still being, you know, using those IDEA funds, those federal dollars in a responsible manner too. So we're trying to find that balancing act of the two. And so, you know, this year coming into it, Luke had given Marcia the directive, and I don't know if Dixie was involved in the conversation, that we're gonna take 2 of the support staff and pay for them out of federal dollars, which is great, except for they went 100% federal, so now we lost that Medicaid part for the people that are working on with those. So, you know, there's that offset. Now we lost those Medicaid dollars for that student. Where if we do a 50-50 or 60-40 between state and federal, we can maximize reimbursement and we can maximize the other federal funds that we can use. So it's not just as easy as saying we're going to take away the $150,000 from flow through, because we wouldn't meet maintenance of effort, and we would lose out on the other ways to recoup some of the other money. So we're working on trying to balance it.
Maintenance is a district commitment.
Yeah.
So when you talk about rolling everything to the flow through, then the district isn't maintaining that same funding, that same effort.
And if you look up there, it says, you know, the state and local money put together. So the combination of the Fund 10, the Fund 27 is the maintenance of effort. Now, if Governor Evers' budget goes through and he raises reimbursement rates to 60% or 30% or 35%, or that goes up, it will offset how much Fund 10 has to kick in, but we still have to have the total of those 2 amounts being the same. You know, and you can slowly tweak those numbers down again. You know, I mean, if you had like a class of 12 kids and they all were high-cost kids and they all graduated in the same year, you could put in almost like a waiver to the state saying, hey, this is why our costs went down so substantially. But you know, a lot of maintenance of effort is talked about of, you can't just reduce teachers because you're gonna not meet maintenance of effort because you're not spending the same amount from year to year to year. So the district is invested in saying this is what our special ed funds are, and then we use these other things to try and offset it.
Okay.
And the way they fund it, it's self-perpetuating.
It is, because you're committing, I mean, obviously we know that special education costs for those students have a higher cost than what a student without special education needs is. So it's the district is committing to spend those extra funds. And that's why we take advantage of things like high-cost aid or of transfer of service, where if, you know, students are moving in and there's a need for them that costs us, we can apply for that. So we try to recoup some of that money where we can get it. But obviously, I mean, the goal is always to maximize our state reimbursement and offset it with the entitlement funds, and trying to really find that balance. And, you know, I know you guys have asked me before why we have the carryover costs we do. I don't know. But I know moving forward, Mitch and I have been in communication with Marcia that we're trying to balance out, like pre-setting some of those costs ahead of time, so we can say we're using X amount of the dollars for offsetting some of the salaries or for these things. So, you know, we're not doing spend downs just to spend down. We're going into it with.
How often are you audited over these things?
Every year. And the DPI has to approve and review all of the budgets that we submit, and then they approve all, like when Marcia enters the costs, and you know, if she does it on a monthly basis or whatever, they approve every cost that she enters line entry as well. So they're monitored closely.
Okay, that's the question of the budget. It's making sure that we're not putting something in there that shouldn't be in there, to take it out of Fund 10 and put it into a special ed cost.
So the audit, do they do that at the state level, or do they come here?
They come here the same time that they do all the other. So when they come in June and work with Marcia, and I don't know who else sits in here for probably 2 or 3 days, most auditors come to the school. Special ed review is part of the annual review of the audit as well. So the special ed part is reviewed annually with that.
Do they ever give you some help on that, the auditors, as far as say, you know, this would be wiser to do this?
So not from an auditor perspective, but the special education funding people at DPI are really excellent. And they speak every year at what's called the State Superintendent Conference on Special Education. That sectional is always packed. I think they could have 9 of them and they'd still always be packed, because every director is looking at how to maximize the funds that were given, and there's all these questions, but there's 2 DPI consultants that work with special education funding, and they're fantastic, and they're really, you know, if you call and ask them, they're very, Rachel Zellmer is one, and she's great to ask, I mean, and these are the types of questions that we ask her all the time, and they're always trying to tell us too, like, I was at a meeting last year and I had never heard of transfer of service before, and it brought it up to all the directors, and then out of the 30 directors in CISA 3, I think 3 of them knew what transfer of service was. So it was really an underutilized assistance that we can apply for, but nobody in our CISA really had ever heard of it before. Big schools knew, but we didn't. So they're always trying to highlight other ways that we can benefit from it, yeah.
Thank you.
The Medicaid has been around for a while now, but is still relatively new. You know, that was a source of money that schools are doing this service, and hey, here's this pot of money that you could, in essence, bill out of, that schools started to tap into.
And
so
even that
it's
is still always being tweaked. I mean, I think even every year, it's, you know, they're trying to make it simpler, but, you know, the paperwork and the forms, and especially revolving attendant care is, you know, there's just a lot of districts that don't take advantage of that, and I know that that's something that we have taken advantage of. But even within like the Medicaid billing part, you know, again, the reimbursement rate for specialized transportation versus just general transportation is huge. I mean, you're talking probably $100 versus $1,000 reimbursement rate, you know, so I mean, the percents are crazy, so I think even that is always hard, but again, it always comes back to what's on the IEP too, so. Any other questions? That was what I had.
Good luck.
Primary budget.
So the finance committee met a week ago. I'll let Andy speak to that.
Yeah, we had a really good meeting actually. And we looked at the most updated budget numbers. The goal is to bring, obviously, in June, a preliminary budget that's balanced. And we're currently about, we have a surplus, but we want to put Rogers maintenance amount back into the budget that we used out of fund balance last year. So we're down to about $45,000. We reviewed all of the new requests to this point, looked at the ones that were their major increases. There weren't, to Mitch's credit, there weren't many. A lot of that had been handled at the administrative level, at the building level. We were able to put 2 servers into this fiscal year, so some of the tech budget that we anticipated having to have this year, we were able to spend in the current fiscal year. So we're real close to a month from now being able to present a balanced budget with Rogers allocation back in there.
And this is based on no money coming from the state yet. This is, the only money is put into our budget is the $350,000 operating referendum that the taxpayers approved back in November. So as Angie spoke, you know, Governor Evers wanted to put all this money back into special education, and I just read where that was one of the many things that was taken out by the legislature. Now they're going to sit down and craft the budget coming forward. They still have, you know, no idea when that process will all take place and roll out and finally get a signature. And until that happens, we won't get any kind of support from the state other than our current level. So that's why I'm really working hard to get that balanced budget. I need a preliminary approval in at the June board meeting, so then we can start to make purchases so that we have stuff in-house for the start of school on August 26th next year. So we got 1 week less, and then the final budget numbers, the mill rate, all those things will be presented in October. That's when you set the levy.
We've also assumed currently a net zero increase in open enrollment funds.
Correct. And you'll see that number's a little different, but that budget, for budgeting purposes, it's held the same. You'll see it, open enrollment's held the same.
We just discussed briefly the idea of having a want list put together if we get open, so not a no for now list for the things that we would like to have but don't currently fit in the budget, that when monies become available because of open enrollment or additional special ed increases that would create some fund $10, we'll be able to put more back into the classroom. So the goal is to be balanced in June, and then as we get more, allocate more back to the classroom at that time.
You were just briefly mentioned our plans for capital improvements. Or that'll be next summer, right?
We would like to meet this summer to talk about Fund 46, and those funds are not available to us until the summer of 2020. But start to look at some thoughts around what big capital maintenance projects and try to get some price tags so we know, what can we prioritize there, what's possible. We don't have to spend it all in one summer. We can spend it out as is. We can continue to add to it and spend from it. It just had to sit for 5 years from the first dollar deposited into that Fund 46, which was July of 15. So July of 2020 is when we can actually use any of those funds. So things like one of the things Roger and I just talked about, the lights out in that gravel parking lot, the drive coming in, any other kind of
road
upgrades.
patching we talked about.
Right, so different kinds of expenses that are capital maintenance expenses that we certainly can't budget for.
Yeah, I think wasn't one a scrubber down to elementary or?
Yeah, there is a possibility that we might be able to get that out of this year's fund, that fund balance fund.
Yeah, perhaps.
But if not, that would certainly be something that would have to come, because that's a bigger ticket item.
Quick plug to the board. The other thing I think we realized out of that meeting is, the level of trust that this board has developed with each other, that we have an opportunity to get back to getting work done in committee meetings instead of having what would have been a 90-minute conversation on the budget tonight. If we can do that with more items and get work done in committee and just trust that the committee will do what's best for the board, we'll be able to eliminate some of those 5 and 6 hour meetings.
I think that's totally a great idea, but I also think you need, whoever the chair is needs to, as Dr. Dunn said, in the building, that information should be sent out to the board.
Report out.
Yeah. But I totally agree with you.
Yeah, for example, the financial committee minutes we approved was basically the agenda.
Right.
Was what we approved. So it would have been nice to have some actual meeting, minutes that summarized, but that was a good sign. I totally agree with your point.
Yeah, it was very accurate. I got to be there. That was very well done.
Okay, let's move on to review.
I was asked to try to get some numbers around where Topper is in the current school year. So I asked Marcia to run a report, and this is up through April. So if you look at this report, basically we're looking out here at this particular column. And what it's reporting out is at this point in time, Topper is running at a $12,000, $667 loss. But there are outstanding lunch accounts kids that have gone negative in their balances and things, so at the end of the year, when they recoup all that, it may balance out, but through April, and this would be their expense, the $12,000.
Any sense on how this compares to last year, or whether this kind of loss in April shook itself out with reconciling accounts?
Last year, I believe they ended the year with about an $8,000 loss. Part of it was, again, kind of the lunch balances that were allowed to run negative and never collected. When the school ran it, my first few years, I can remember a lot of lunch shifts going out and handing out slips to students. You know, hey, you're at a -20, you're at a -40, you're at a -60, so on and so forth. Now there's an automated system to do that, but it's still, you know, the direction was, we're not in that, we'll collect the money and report it to Taher, but we're not necessarily the agency to track it down any longer. So I mean, that kind of falls on Taher's shoulders to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do on the service end, you know, and helping notify students. But yeah, they ended up with about an $8,000 loss last year. So it's...
That they absorbed?
They absorbed that, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's move on into budget update if nobody has any other comments or questions.
So, works out great with Lisa sitting in the audience. We do this every month, right? We're looking at April of a year ago, and it says we've expended 68% of our budget at this time at the end of April last year, or about. And if we look at our current through April of this year, we're at 70% expended on the budget, so we've kind of been in that 2 to 3% range all year long as to how we've expended our budget. So we're basically right on track from where we were a year ago.
Any questions, anybody? Items for action, we're going to move number 7 up so that we can bring Lisa up. And then we'll go back to number 1. Come on up, Lisa.
Okay. Hi guys. How are you doing? Long time no see. Okay, so you have 2 resolutions on the agenda like we talked about last time. First one is the bond anticipation notes, which is authorizing $10 million of the short-term bridge loan so we can get it closed and invested as soon as possible. We locked in with the Zions Bank, I think it was at 273 or 276. It's a great rate. Rates are so low right now. You know, just from the bond market standpoint, since I was here last, it's done nothing but come down. I mean, it's still coming down. So, fingers crossed we can get everything wrapped up by maybe June or July with the long-term, the fixed rate bonds. So that's the first resolution. Second resolution is setting the parameters for the long-term bond issue. So there's all kinds of like boilerplate language in that resolution, but what you hear about is we have a not to exceed amount of, a not to exceed interest rate of 4%. So we wouldn't issue the bonds if it went over 4%, and I'm pretty confident it's not going to. And then we've laid out all of like kind of the principal payback, but we've put a little flexibility in there because I don't know if you guys have the 2 options. I don't know if you're.
I don't think I have that in the board packet.
So the second resolution, anyway, the second resolution with the parameters gives flexibility no matter which option you pick. Because we had talked with Andy, who came up with the great idea was to say, let's look at what it might look like if we keep that tax levy up to the $1.78 increase for the first year. Because what I proposed last time I was here was let's keep as flexible as possible because adding on the operating override this fall, and we don't really have to just have it in the budget and the state aid, and there's lots of factor moving pieces.
So those are the kind of the two options. If you don't have them, which it doesn't look like anyone does, I have copies. So they're one on one side, it's one sheet of paper, but there are two options are on either side. And honestly, the only difference between the two is what you would levy this fall. So scenario one is kind of where I was here last time, and that was saying let's minimize the amount of tax levy so that our mill rate increase comes out to be about $1.60, a little bit lower. Again, always can levy more, but we didn't put any principal, we didn't amortize any principal in that in the note issue. So we're minimizing that. And then option two, so that's really the only difference. And then option two says, well, let's keep that mill rate for this fall up to the increase, that bottom green box of $1.78. So that's the difference. But when you look at the bottom right-hand box and you look at debt service differential, I mean, it's significant, right? Because you're amortizing more debt faster, right? You're paying it off faster if your mill rate's going to be up to the $1.78. I hope that makes sense. That's kind of a brief overview. So now granted, if you levy this fall, not the minimum, say we issue the debt, it's the minimum of, what was it, 578, 567. If you decide to levy more, I mean, that's going to go to pay off debt. So you still, you're going to save something there. But you can see the difference in, I mean, you're still way under you're $1,700,000 under for scenario two, and you're $1,600,000 under for scenario one. So it's, I mean, it's a less than $100,000 to give yourself a little bit of flexibility this fall to. So aside from the two adoptions of the resolution, I would like a little bit of direction from the board as far as what you think might make the most sense. I know you wanted to kind of see the $1.78. I'll leave it there to see if you guys have any questions.
In scenario one, if the state comes in and then says, okay, we're going to allow you to tax $200 per pupil, that impacts the mill rate. And scenario one gives us that flexibility to put that in there and still potentially stay at that $1.78.
Well, yeah, if the state comes in and says we're going to put $200 on the revenue limit worksheet, then we hope they don't do that. We hope they put $200 on the categorically. But if they do put it on the revenue limit worksheet, that's going to automatically increase, right? Depending on all your exemptions, but your mill rate's going to increase just like that.
Right.
Now add on top of that the operating, which is what, 74 cents?
Yep.
But that was average, so the first couple of years are going to be a little higher. And then add on top of that debt. I just want to be really transparent about that because, I've worked with other districts where all the stars did not line up when it came time to levy. And, your overall mill rate in this district's case was way over the dollar, increase of over the dollars, you know what I mean, it was higher. So I just want to make sure you guys are very clear on that. You really have three things going on. You have the budget, you have the new operating levy, and then you have the debt levy. There's a lot of unknowns right now because it's only May, unfortunately. So what do you think?
So scenario two gives us more flexibility.
Actually, no, that's the one that you levy more, right up to the $1.78.
Yeah, I see.
Scenario one says, well, let's levy the bare bones minimum, which is $1.60, right? The increase is $1.60, with the option of levying more if it fits into the overall budget.
Yeah, I think one is the safest scenario.
If you were to make a recommendation.
I like one. I want to keep you guys flexible because there's too many unknowns right now. Yeah. But I mean, I know it's interesting to see the difference, like, what if we really,
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting, but I still,
I agree with scenario one.
so. Okay, we'll move forward with scenario one now.
Okay.
And the next steps on our end is to start thinking about that bond rating call.
So are these, what length of debt bond are these? Are these 20-year?
Yeah.
20. 20? So right now I see that they're like 2.38 is what they are on the bond rates.
We need a AAA.
Yeah, oh, I see, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, we're not AAA, yeah, okay. Because I thought, boy, 2.72 still seems high.
If we could borrow some more assets,
Yeah.
and just tuck them into school,
Yeah.
we might be able to get to there, but.
You're right, that was AAA.
But
Yeah,
again,
okay.
what you're seeing right now for the long-term bonds, and even that second phase borrowing that we'll do in the fall,
Yeah.
I mean, really conservative. I think we're gonna get well under 3.25.
Well, I think so, because there's gonna be a flight to bonds here.
There already is.
I mean, it's just happened today.
Even today, yeah.
Massive.
Huge, yeah.
It was just
It-
gigantic.
the
It's like, oh
bond-
my
The
God.
municipal bond market only moved like 2 basis points across
Right.
the curve, which isn't a lot, but I can see that happening. Yeah, people want their debt.
Security.
Yeah, people pay their taxes, and that's what pays this debt, right, the taxes. It's much more secure investment than stocks.
Yeah, although the Chinese have a bunch of US Treasury notes too. They tried to flood our market today with that,
Yeah.
tried to hurt us.
Yeah.
So the Chinese are not stupid.
Yeah. So, what else, questions, or?
So we need to take action on the 2 resolutions tonight.
So do we have a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion we go for scenario number 1.
That would be the parameters resolution.
I don't think we
Right.
have to do the scenario thing. She
Oh,
just wanted
we-
direction on that.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good with scenario 1, we don't have, motion, but we want motions for the 2 resolutions.
I see.
And the official motion is really what's the agenda, the title of the resolution is what the motion is, technically.
Okay, so we have a motion, would somebody want a second?
Wait, where are you at?
Number 7.
That, his motion was for her.
That scenario.
Scenario, we don't
She
have
has
to do that.
Okay.
Resolutions in here.
Why not do number 7?
If you want to move to improve the bond anticipation note,
Yeah, it's,
which is number 7.
number 7. Yeah, number 7. Yeah,
If
it's
that's your motion
page,
right there.
yeah, page 58 of the, yeah, that's the one, sorry. That would be the resolution that I would make the motion we adopt. Doesn't have a number though.
It's okay.
Oh, okay.
So
Be
it's
clear, the motion is to
Who did?
Tony?
approve the resolution.
Yes.
The resolution authorizing
issuance and sale of a $10 million bond anticipation note pursuant to section 6712(1)B Wisconsin statutes.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
So let's call a question, please.
There's too much paperwork out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of signatures, so don't be leaving early tonight.
Oh.
There's a lot of signatures.
We may have to come after my other board meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, we just need to get it off to Quarles and Brady, and so that they have everything for them.
So when you have this, will you, if this passes, you'll have the authority today to go and sell these bonds?
Yes,
Oh,
we have
gotcha.
to work.
So like
to-
tomorrow you could?
I wish I
Okay.
could.
Yeah, I wish you could too.
Okay, Lindsay,
Aye.
Stephens,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Baston.
Yes.
Like the earliest.
I'll move to pass a resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $10 million general obligation refunding bonds.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Explain this one.
This one are the parameters, so this is giving us the authority, first one was the bridge loan. This one's giving us the authority to go and sell bonds any day in June. When we're ready to go, I can pick the day in the market because I'm gonna follow these parameters that you just adopted. I don't have to come back to a board meeting and sell bonds on that particular day. I can watch the market.
Yeah, so as a bond marker, you're going to describe the scope of our project, kind of describe the district, our current debt
Yeah,
ratio,
30-page document.
all that stuff that goes
Yeah,
into
like
selling the bond.
prospectus,
Okay.
yep. It's a 30-page document, so you'll get very familiar with it.
I just spoke with a representative from Corals and Brady about
The disclosure
the
document.
disclosure document, so they will help make sure it's done correct, because, as I said, unless you're an expert,
Yeah.
which I am not,
Yeah.
you're on the school district would be on the hook to make sure everything's accurate
Yeah.
and. so-
Complete, yeah,
It's
it's
really
your
complicated.
document,
Right.
yeah.
So we'll be using Corals and Brady for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then on June 3rd, we'll be wiring funds, we'll be wiring the $10 million bridge loan, the note proceeds to you,
Yes.
to your personal account. We're working through the best option for that. We were talking to the local bank and we were talking to another organization, so we're gonna make that decision the next day or two, to, get an idea of where those funds are gonna go. Highest yielding, most, best approach, so we're working with the three of us are working together on that.
Question, please.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes.
Thank you for moving me out. I was hiding in the corner and
I see. Okay, let's move into second reading approval of therapy dog policy.
I gotta step out a second, yeah. Go ahead.
Would we like to actually act on this?
Yeah, this
Okay.
Yeah, I've got one
So
question.
you're gonna move it? I'll move to approve the second reading.
Okay.
Approval of their policy.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Okay, Dr. Dunn, what's your question?
My question is just, I need to be reminded what expense to the district this project is going to cost, and whether it's an initial upfront, or is there some maintenance cost annually? I know that the owner is absorbing some of those costs.
Right.
I didn't get that clarified, or I don't remember.
The owner is here, and
Denise
she's,
is out here,
she submitted the cost. Denise, would you like to speak to Aaron's question?
Well, I filled out a grant proposal for the EIE board, but
Okay.
pending approval tonight, if that works out or not. It's basically for, the veterinarian offered to give 35% discount for the therapy vaccinations, and I would take care of the rest. The certification courses are the biggest thing, the preschool that starts tomorrow, actually, is one session, and then after that, there's another session, so this one's like $75, the next one's like $975, and depending on how far you go with it. So right now, I'm just, the grant I proposed, I think was $1,600, which would cover the certification classes and some of the vaccinations, and then things he would need, like at school, like a kennel or a pillow or the water dishes, that kind of thing. So that's, I'm just kind of doing it in segments, so I'm not asking for too much at one time. And also there's the donors too that I thought if I needed larger funds for the certification classes, then I would go that route too. So really, I mean, the dog was donated, so I didn't for that, so I don't see the district. I have the insurance, so I don't really see it being a cost. And that's, and I know Matt, you mentioned that you could be in like maybe my budget, I could maybe budget for some things that, maybe some things that I overlooked or something, I'm not really sure. So-
Because there's an academic and social emotional benefit, I could put it into a number of different allocations to budget for it in the building, whether it's equipment, resources, or.
Sounds like it could qualify for a flow-through fund, would it not?
If it linked directly to the student with a disability, you never know. I think it could be. I mean, it depends on how, obviously, many of our students have social emotional learning needs. I think it would just be on how it's worded within their IEP and the need for it, so.
Let's just not.
But I think
create-
I think within the building,
Right,
I
not
think
the-
it's,
Got it. Okay, so to answer the question, I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Matt, you're saying that for the 2019-20 budget, you would put it in there?
I just rolled over.
Or just to this?
We're just kind of holding off because we don't know what the state is yet, but just knowing what we've had in the past and that we look like we're gonna have a balanced budget, I'm confident we'll have the cost covered.
But that's assuming you don't get the grant to cover the costs,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we'll know that at the.
Well, I put in a date, but I actually put, yeah, I'm not really sure because I previously applied for grants and received those funds for the
I'm on
documents
that
ones.
board, well, I'm not on the board because I don't vote, but I know that they'll be presented at the end of the year teacher event on May 29th.
Yeah.
So,
So I'll just start what I can and pay for what I need to myself, that's no big deal, I can handle that.
I would just suggest keeping receipts, you know, so that if there's things to be reimbursed for, then you have the receipts and can be reimbursed.
What's the dog's name?
Cooper.
Cooper, okay. Cooper, huh? All right.
he's very good at walking on.
Yeah,
On a leash.
Good thing I don't have my checkbook here, you can just tell me what he needs.
There's a day at the beach with Cooper.
Always better than the Cooper I know.
He's talking about my
Cooper.
Can you submit photos with your application for the grant?
No, I did.
Photos of the dog?
Didn't
I'm
ask
joking.
me. Oh, okay, like I could.
Well, do we want to maybe add to your motion that, to have her keep her receipts and pay, because I think she should be reimbursed fully for whatever, and it's not going to be that much.
We're actually the policy.
Okay. So Denise, just go to Mitch, and he'll find the money somewhere.
Thanks, Jeff.
You can't math well.
Not telling.
Okay. Oh, let's call a question.
Dahl.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
I have a question about the motion. You're gonna have
It's
to.
strictly the dog.
Oh, okay, then I say yes. Okay. Yes.
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 Passing.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. We'll move on to district library plan. Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Don't be disappointed.
Okay, we've just created an end of the year report. It's short, we promise, and then followed by action, hopefully, on our district library plan that we presented last time. So this is just some of our, the numbers from this year and some of the great things that have happened in our libraries.
Blown on their seats.
wanted to give you a taste of what happens throughout the year in both of our spaces, and you are welcome anytime to visit and to see more.
Thank you.
We need to approve the library.
I move that we approve the district library plan.
Second. Last month with it as well for the first reading.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Let's call a question, please.
Dahl.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Okay, approval of teacher contracts.
So we use the salary schedule that was approved, lanes and steps. So basically, we have all the teacher contracts ready to go off with your approval. We'll send them all tomorrow so that we can get signatures on them. Everything's fairly standard. It's a standard teacher contract. We just applied the salary schedule to their particular contract. So with your approval, we'll send them out tomorrow.
Move that we approve the teacher contracts for 2019 to 2020.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, let's call a question, Angie.
Dahl.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Bush.
I actually do have a question. There's also steps on here. Is that accurate?
Should be.
So in that number was CPI and steps?
Yep.
Okay,
And that's in the current budget comparison.
that's in the.
Yep, yep.
Yes.
Calvin, we asked that too, Amy.
Chambers.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Okay, approval of summer contracts.
For summer school, for the hours, again, we get a benefit, the number of hours students are here for instruction. So we have, anybody that's on staff gets a percentage of their daily stipend. Anybody that we hire outside of the district is hired at $20 an hour.
What's the percentage they get?
I believe it's 80% of their per diem.
80% of the per diem.
Yep.
And then how much are we reimbursed by the state for summer school?
It's on the per pupil count, so we get the number of hours divided by, or the number of students times their hours divided by like 10,000 and something, gives you that number that you can add to your student enrollment then for the following year.
It's, I think you get like 1/3 on your, so it's added on your total enrollment for the whole year. I think it's every 3 students might count as one.
Tony.
Right, because you get the 3-year rolling average as well, but
Tony. Hold this, Tony, hold this up. This shows it better in your packet.
it's in the back sleeve of your packet.
Is it my understanding that summer school is a net positive financially for the district?
Yes.
So how much do we net? It's 59,859 total expense, correct?
Correct. I'd have to get that number, that final number from Marcia. Comparing it to last year, Mitch, do you have a breakdown to show the difference?
Yeah, put that here.
Oh,
In board book when it
is it on there?
What the total was that was last
It's on the Google sheet we burned.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, she can see it okay, but not what it printed.
So it is in board. What is it?
Yeah, for this year. Yeah, it's there, but it doesn't compare to last year.
All right, I can see last year, that number.
Here it is there. But
Matt, do you remember what the total was last year?
Well, let me ask you this, are we offering significantly more classes, or is it similar amount of offerings?
Similar amount of offerings this year compared to last year.
Aaron, we look at enrollment.
Yeah.
So like we have 12 kids in a grade, for example, for the whole grade, we're only going to hire one teacher, whereas if we had 22, so we don't add on staff until necessary. So we just keep an eye on that student enrollment, which we've already done, and we expect more to come in before July 1st. So.
Student enrollment for last summer?
For this year.
Okay.
We've already sent out the form and they keep track of how many kids are coming in, and then we'll kind of say, well, we're going to get a few more because some people forget, and then, they show up on day one.
I see.
Yeah.
So the staff is based on your enrollment numbers, kids interested. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Do we charge the families a fee?
Nope.
No, it's free.
I don't think they're allowed to.
Yeah, if
on
you-
Summer schools, you're not allowed to. I think you can do like a fee for the cost of the resources, but you can't make money for summer school.
I do know this, we had money left over that we allocated for other resources from summer school that we had allocated last year. Because it's in July, so it's in this fiscal year. We had money remaining, from, does that make sense? Okay.
You didn't use all the money for summer school that you had set aside for summer school?
Correct.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the summer contracts.
Second.
Any other comments or questions?
Did we ever get the question answered? Is it about the same as last year, or
51.6 last year.
51.6?
Oh, there you go.
Okay. All right. And this
But
year,
it looks like
there's more
more
offerings.
offerings. Yeah.
All right.
It also would be that some of the pay would be more too. because
Slightly.
of
It would be the
cost of living
CPI.
increase.
It would be the CPI.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, any other questions? Angie, let's call a question, please.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Approval of the additive contracts.
A year ago, these were frozen. So we applied the CPI this year to the additive contracts. Again, they are rolled into the current budget so that everything was accounted for moving forward.
The additives are in the front packets of your.
Oh, okay, because, I see,
No, that's
that's the kids that.
That's open enrollment.
Oh, that's open enrollment, sorry. Sorry.
Oh, that,
So this is an additive.
So like your coaches, your
Okay.
extracurriculars, your co-curriculars, your advisories, those kinds of things.
So just to be clear,
this,
Mitch,
okay, gotcha.
because of the freeze last year, the percentage isn't exact to the year one base.
Correct.
It's actually a little higher than the actual percentage.
So these did not go correctly.
This does not have any of the health.
No. This is purely a percentage of this, of the base salary.
It's up there, but we don't have. So this year, Mitch is 141,673. All right, and that does include it, the CPI?
Correct.
Only the CPI?
Yes. Yeah. The percentages don't change. In some districts I've been in, when you're the head coach, you might start out at 5%, and after so many years, you move up to 6 and 7 and 8. here in this district, it's always been just a straight percent. And that percentage does not change.
Okay. I move that we approve the additive contracts.
Second.
Was there a number on there from last year?
I didn't have a comparative to last year, but I can certainly get that as well from Marcia.
All right. Any new positions?
No, no.
They're all the same.
So basically it went up 2.1 with the CPI,
And
roughly,
Probably 2.4.
or 2.4, okay.
Correct.
yeah, what the base is this year,
Mhm.
those percentages were applied to the base salary this year.
Gotcha, okay.
And some of the positions, like the freshman coaches are budgeted for, like for basketball, but if they don't have enough and don't have one, then that money obviously just sits in the budget and can be reallocated somewhere else.
Where does this show up in the final budget? Is this under salaries, or where is this?
Yes,
This is in the salary?
yes.
Okay.
So where does the stipend, if they don't take health insurance, where does that go under? I thought that was additive.
Benefited.
So it's an additive.
Yeah, it's under like the benefits cost.
And have we done that yet?
Yes.
It's my bad here. Yeah, we did that last month.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, we,
so,
I thought we were going to talk about that more. I didn't think we approved that. Because you're taking it down to
35.
35. Oh, I'm sorry, we did because we're going to do it in steps down.
Right.
right.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Andy, let's call the question, please.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Asking.
Yes. Southwest Hospital, it's trainer contract.
Yes, so we recommend hiring, continue to hire Brad Baumstead as our athletic trainer. 5 days a week, he's here after school. Probably should turn off the film so that it's not on record, but you can call Brad on a Saturday or Sunday and get your athleting to be seen on a Saturday or Sunday or over the summer and all those kinds of things. I mean, he's available to us and provides excellent support. So every year we re-sign the contract, agree to the terms. For Southwest Health, it's an increase of 2.1%, $225 from last year to this next year. And I recommend we continue that service.
And they bill us by the month.
Correct.
We don't get out.
Correct.
So we did not bid that out at all?
We have not, no.
I thought that's what we had decided a year ago, that should be bid out. I think that was just before Elizabeth
I
left.
apologize, I wasn't aware of that.
It's my recollection, talking with Luke, that there was consideration to bid it out last year, in talking, but basically in talking with Vicki and just assessing how they want to keep the situation the way it is, they decided not to go out to bid. Is that very accurate? And they let people who were interested in bidding that, and that was the end of that. I'm not aware of any promises made to go out to bid this year, however, so I don't know.
Stand corrected.
That's correct. So the fee schedule, Vicki, a football game is $50. Am I reading this right?
No, the only things that we really have to pay on that page is like the Saturday wrestling, like if he covers like an all-day wrestling tournament. Those extra charges there, those would be anything above what we already have scheduled in our current schedules. So like if he shows up for a Friday night football game, that's not gonna be an extra charge to us. Because it's all covered under the contract.
Okay.
So if you add a football game now,
Right,
then
right,
they would
yeah,
charge
like
you
if we had
$6.
like a Saturday playoff
Okay.
game, yeah.
It's my understanding that the benefit that Southwest Health provides to the district is the fact that they've employed Brad Baumstad, who's a valuable athletic trainer to the district. I notice in the contract, there's no guarantee that they're going to use Brad Baumstad as the athletic trainer for the district in the upcoming school year. Which means, I mean, I know that it's kind of the assumption that's what's going to happen, but we're contracting with the facility with no guarantees that the person we want as the athletic trainer is going to remain that for the year. Was that discussed at all?
No, I think because there are, you know.
Do you know if Brad has a signed contract to serve as athletic director?
Athletic director, you
That's what I'm
replacing me?
Vicki, do you know if Brad
I
is
do-
signed on for next year?
I do know that Brad and I have had discussions and we are under the agreement that he will remain athletic trainer here. I'm not sure if he has a contract, but he's specifically told me that he would have never accepted that job if they did not guarantee him that he would be Mineral Point's athletic trainer.
Did you say this was 5 days a week or 4?
He's here 5 days a week.
Yeah, 5 days a week.
Okay, this says a minimum of 4 days under services, a minimum of 4 days a week.
And he's here 5.
So,
Yeah.
but he's, okay, so.
When Brad was with Upland Hills, we got him 2 days a week, and it varied between right after school or 5 o'clock. Because he was going to other locations. In this contract.
So a minimum of 4 days.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
But he does come 5 days.
Yep.
See, and when he was with Upland Hills, we never had him for all our home events. Well, then, I think he worked it out so he could just be here and do our home events. But now we have him available for all scheduled varsity home events. And he's at JV football too.
Yeah, I think that's my point. I mean, I would, you know, my vote for this would be a vote for Brad.
And that's my recommendation is for Brad.
So, I mean, the contract doesn't, we take a little bit of a risk here because it's not included that Brad will be our athletic trainer for the district for the school year. So I just want to make sure that that's,
You know, and I guess
clear
if
to the board.
we wouldn't, I don't think this, let's say Brad were to get fired. I don't think Southwest Health would continue to employ Brad simply because we have a contract for his training services. You understand what I mean? If he's no longer their employee, we at least have a contract with Southwest Health to have a trainer provided at that point in time.
Correct.
We're moving forward with the fact that we know at this point in time it will be Brad.
Yeah.
And this contract is up every year.
Yep.
So we can.
Right.
So they want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just one more question. So, to Tony's point, since the contract says minimum 4 days, if Brad comes 5 days, are we billed extra? That's,
No.
Okay. So we're just billed extra in case there's a non-scheduled event that he
Right,
attends?
right, yeah.
Okay.
But like, you know, the all-day sectional wrestling where we're here from
Right.
all day.
Right.
Right, yeah. And for instance, you know, I would guess too, you know, like some Saturdays, possibly like a football playoff game, but you know, as many Saturday basketball games that we have had, like regional finals, we never paid extra. I mean, he considers that part of his contract.
I'll just reiterate that he's a valuable asset to the district, and I support keeping him around.
Let's call a question, please.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Basson.
Yes.
Every year we look at the services provided by CISA 3. There's good news to report. There's actual reduction in the cost of our CISA 3 contract from last year to this year without changing anything. We didn't cut any programs or contracts or services that we've had in the past. So there's a nice reduction of $600 in the course of the year.
Was that from a CISA budgeting, or
Yes.
do we not need so many services because of our staffing?
No, we have not, I did not change anything in the contract. It was just a reduction.
O&M went formula based, which reduced our O&M $600.
Orientation and mobility.
Yeah, so CISA made that adjustment.
Okay. I see.
Karen, make a motion. Where did you see that, Vivian?
It's under the special education section.
It's at the bottom of the first page.
I can move.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any other questions or comments?
The next year, Mitch, you'll observe this and make sure that we are getting our $30,000 worth from CISA.
The PAC meetings that I attend, there's meetings that the principals can attend. Matt was just at one today.
Yep, and it was, went over standards and licensing information, just things that we don't have time to look into. I mean, that's their job. That's
Good.
They have 4 or 5 a year for special ed directors as well.
And because of some of our contract, some of the trainings that they offer, that's rolled into that fee, and so we don't pay any additional to send people down for trainings.
Do you use the services yourselves?
Yeah, the PAC meetings, professional committees that I get information from, meet on a monthly basis. So, I mean, and again, Jamie Nutter is in, and he's trying to make this as cost neutral to CISA and to the districts as possible. So he's doing his best to make sure, because out here, how many of us can afford a full-time O&M, a full-time speech therapist, a full-time, so because they can provide that service and spread the cost to what we just need, that helps us be able to provide our students those services or needs at a cost that's affordable.
And you're also using Jamie as a resource as needed.
Yep.
I use CISA a lot for resources.
Andy offered to facilitate a board meeting this summer if we wanted to just strategize for the next year. So that's all included.
Jamie Nutter. Yep.
Yes.
Question, please. Good idea.
Nate Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yep.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Basson.
Yes. Transportation contract.
I didn't scan it in because it's a 3-ring binder with many, 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 many pages. And my recommendation is that we continue to employ first student. We had 3 bids come in, and first student was not the lowest bid, they were the bid in the middle. Through some negotiations and some other conversations, Lamers was the low bid, but the transportation coordinator from the Dodgeville School District and does Spring Green, I've worked with her in the past, and I know she shared Lamers is growing too fast, too quickly, too big. As a matter of fact, she stepped away from Lamers. She's no longer in that position. The new person has some Mineral Point roots, contacted our own Roger Paulskill and asked him if he'd be willing to sub for Lamers, and he's like, I'm subbing for first student now, I don't have time. So for Lamers is still, you know, because they have so many districts that they're trying to add, they're struggling. And I can speak for the service and the quality of service that we get through first student. Yes, they're a little bit more money, but I think the convenience, the working relationship we have with Todd, in-house, you know, in town, I think it's worth that to keep that contract rolling for another 5 years.
I think the only question we had was about cameras, additional cameras on buses. Was that?
Todd, can you?
That was discussed in the.
Right now, we have 2 cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was some idea about maybe having more.
that's a good possibility, yes.
I know, and the other thing that came up that you mentioned cameras, some bus companies are putting cameras on the outside. You know, some of those, like the traffic areas of the people passing on the stop arm, or, geez, the other day I just saw one on TV where somebody passed the bus on the right, and the driver grabbed the student by the hood to keep them from going out the door as a car went by on the right side of the bus. You know, so I don't know if First Student has talked about potentially doing anything like that. Are you aware of that?
They're constantly trying to figure out the safest, they're always trying to stay ahead of the game. And they have not, sent anything out to us yet on the outside mirrors.
Okay.
How far away are we from putting seatbelts in buses, Todd? Being mandated to do it?
I think
That was
it's-
a question at the meeting too.
At one time, I think it's gonna be, a lot sooner than one person thinks, and then it just depends who's on legislator as far as getting, there's 1 pro and then there's 3, against. You see these buses, you see these fires in buses, and I just can't imagine trying to get all the kids out of seatbelts and get them on the bus. I think in the past 5 years, what they did, they raised the seats in the school buses are 7 inches. So the kids are less apt to fly over the seats.
The backs of the seats.
The backs of the seats are higher.
Okay.
That is one thing they've, moved, to try to make a bus safer, without, putting in seatbelts. I can't tell you when, if or when seatbelts will, some districts do have them. There are districts out there that do have them.
Conveniently, there was a report I read today out of Iowa. $8,000 to outfit a bus with seatbelts. Would that be a new bus, Todd, or would that be a retrofit on an old bus?
There's about 3 different types of seatbelts out there.
Okay.
And I would say that would probably be probably a new one. Be cheaper than a retrofit.
Right. And they were talking about getting funding from the state to offset the additional cost of the school districts.
The seat belts we've used them, with, troubled kids. We have some individuals, as little youngsters, they just can't stay seated, and we've used seat belts as a safety measure and, discipline, trying to keep them in the seats. We get okays, through the parents, and we do install a seat belt, and it does work. It does work.
And they were advocating for this because they were seeing that the school bus driver then could focus more on driving than looking in the mirror.
I do agree. I do agree. If you got a kid standing up, he doesn't have a seatbelt on.
Yeah.
When it's gonna come out, I don't know. And then the buses will, the buses that are out there will be grandfathered in, will they make all the buses, retrofit, so far back? I don't know. I don't know.
Question on emission standards came up, and Todd said that they're at the highest level right now. And for a student, when I talked to the area manager, said that within this 5-year contract, they would be replacing about half of their fleet with newer buses. And all of those would be at the highest standard through the EPA at that point in time as well.
What's the future of First Student, Todd? They don't seem very popular in our area.
Labor's been, they've been gobbling everything out. They've been underbidding a lot of districts, to be honest with you. Are they making any money? I don't know.
And the difference wasn't a lot, Mitch.
$9,000 for the year?
For a year.
For a year.
That was the low bid. Compared to First Student's bid.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you think we could get a quote from First Student on what it would cost to install seatbelts on the buses or used in our district? And then maybe we could at least set it aside as a wish list or a grant opportunity or whatever.
Sure, we can do that.
I mean, maybe we can even split costs or something in future negotiations or something. I'd like to know if it's 8,000 per bus or if that's just for the top end seat belts or whatever.
That's what I read today. And they were breaking that down to the life of the bus, the number of kids and the number of days the bus runs. It was 4 cents per day per child. That's what that seatbelt costs.
Okay.
And so Todd, from your comments about fires and getting kids out of a bus, is it more likely for a bus to catch fire than to tip over?
You just, on the news, you see these buses and, flames, and you just kind of wonder. As far as tipping over, school buses are one of the safest vehicles out there. For any of these to happen, it's not a common thing to happen, but, things do happen. You just got to weigh it out.
It is interesting that coach buses don't have seatbelts, school buses don't. I mean,
Yeah, you would think the Department of Transportation would have plenty of data on bus fatalities and whether seatbelts would have prevented, major injuries or spinal injuries or anything like that. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Todd.
No, that's fine. But you do see a bus, tipped over. You don't hear about many fatalities.
Yeah.
Not many injuries. Period.
Yeah. My other question, Todd, is there's 2 cameras currently on the buses.
There's two cameras. Actually, there's 2 cameras installed on 2 different buses. One bus, I added another camera onto it just because we were not getting the view of the far back. We're getting like half the view of the bus. So I added another camera system, eye system, so we could see throughout the whole bus. But again, the cameras are good. If the kids are up and out of their seat. But with these high seats, we don't always see what's going on. But from time to time they do catch some good stuff on there that we like to show the parents. And
So one camera's on the kids and then one camera's on the driver?
No. There's one right above the driver that shoots probably the front half of the bus, and then the other shooting the second half of the bus.
Okay.
And there's, it's voice, volume, so you can hear the driver talk, you can hear the kids talk. So sometimes it's pretty loud, and Vicki is, she is, came over and watched, a couple of the verify what had taken place.
Yep.
So
It was very helpful.
they do come in handy.
Yeah, good.
And I can attest that the seat backs are plenty high when you're my size, and if you want to see out the front, you got to lean around the seat to see out the front windshield. So they're
Fair enough.
certainly elevated.
Last question. With fuel costs going up, we want to make sure we're using the smallest buses as possible for the number of kids we're hauling around. Are there any routes that we could use smaller buses for? Or are we maximizing, or, are we the most efficient with the bus space we're using, in your opinion?
My opinion, we looked at this about, it's been quite, a few years back. We used to have 2 small buses that ran the rural, ran the midday, because our pre-Ks, anywhere from 15 to 18 kids. But what we noticed was trying to, with being so rural and the countries that we traveled, the little buses did not get around very well at all. We felt constantly, in the wintertime, it was a risk. It seemed like a lot of, anytime there was bad weather, I would send out a big bus versus a little one, just because they got around better, and stayed on the road better. Your little ones, we seem to be, they weren't near as safe. So we eventually we did away with them. And the reason why we have big ones, we're just to use them. They're more usable. We go on field trips. Sure, during the regular routes they may not be filled to max, but when we go on a field trip, we get small buses. Now we're going to take 2 small ones versus 1 big one. And then we're splitting up the group. So
Is there much of a fuel efficiency difference between the short bus and the larger bus? Miles per
depending
gallon?
on what engine's in them, yes, there can be. But again, just depends, what size and what engine you do have running.
Okay. Thank you.
When we ask you to, for example, create a few bus stops within the city of Mineral Point, is that an extra charge to the district, or you just coordinate that?
No, it was never, no.
And I thought that's what it was.
Yep.
Somebody carry me the motion.
I think do we have a motion second or no? No. Okay.
Do you think that you could get at least 1 camera in every regular scheduled bus, regular route bus? You think that's something that person would do with the group contract?
I can sure talk to them about it. I'll do my best.
To start.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to pass the transportation service contract with First Student.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any other questions? Let's call a question, please.
We should probably know that number, Jeff. What is the number, Mitch?
For our 7 routes and our noonday routes, 347,846.
846, okay. 7 routes.
So that's 7 AM, PM routes and the midday routes, 2 midday routes.
That'd be under purchase services in the budget, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Purchase services?
Yep. And we pay that on a monthly basis.
Not that it matters, but is it averaged out over the 12 months, or do we pay very little in the summer?
Most big month.
No, but is it
different?
equal installments?
I thought it was evened up.
I believe, Todd, you can,
I believe it's just the monthly installment. We bill on what occurred that month. So throughout the summer, you'll just have.
our summer school routes
Yeah.
that happen a couple of times.
Yeah.
I see. Well, there still is a bill in the summer, but it's a lot less.
Yeah, if you run no buses, you have no bill.
So our June and August, our August might be just the football and volleyball runs. So that'd be a lesser amount, so the brunt of it is through the school year then.
Yeah.
Let's call a question, Angie.
Chambers,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. We're tabling G, the school board cooperative resolution. We cannot get that information, so we'll move on to HSR contract.
These are the HSR contracts I brought in March. Everything that I'd sent them off to Bob Butler, everything that Bob had asked to be included in here has been included in here. We were going to act on it in April, and they were like, well, let's hold off until the outcome of the referendum. We now know this is the scope of the project that they're doing. This is the addition remodel contract. So we just need formal approval, and then we can sign this. So everything everything is spelled out. I had Bob Butler look at it. He gave me suggestions. I just passed it right along to HSR, and everything is included in it. So
I'll make the motion to approve the contract with HSR.
I'll second. Any comments or? I'd like the building committee just to comment on how their interactions with HSR have been to date, just kind of starting to get into the weeds. And
My personal opinion is HSR is on the ball. They're honest, upfront with us. I trust them 100%. They take our feedback from every meeting we've had, from every person that has had an opinion on the matter. They've taken that into consideration and done what they can. They've explained why we can or why we can't, or you know, they research it anyway. I think they're a good group. I mean, I have a really good feeling about them. I trust them. That's my opinion.
Great, thank you.
I would agree. I'm very impressed with Tim Butler in particular. And just like you said, Nate, what gets me is Roger or someone will make a comment about, gosh, couldn't you do this or that? And say, hey, that's a good idea. And they've incorporated it. I think their eyes are wide open, which is really good. I've been very impressed with them. I like their ease of communication and their interaction. They're really good about listening.
Yeah, I mean, just reiterate what they said, and organized. They come with a very detailed agenda. This is what we're going to cover today, but they don't allow the agenda to dictate the meeting. I mean, they'll stop and explain. I have lots of questions, and they explain it well. And there's been some constraints in their initial designs that we're like, I don't know if this is going to work. And they're not coming with a preconceived notion of what a school should be. That'd be great. You do a pretty good job listening.
And I really sense they are trying to give us the best they can for the money. It sure sounds like it. They're giving us some really solid advice, I'd say.
They seem to be open to your ideas as far as the whole 6 design ideas for the 21st century.
I could share that information with them. When I write about it, I'll CC them on it. I did give them a copy of that book in the beginning, just if they want to reference it. And when I've shared information, they've been receptive and said, oh, thank you. And they don't come across as like they already know it all. They don't get that sense of...
I think it comes, this is a two-way street. I think there's a true feeling of they're coming with ideas and they're taking our ideas and making, and putting that in. I wasn't at the prior meeting, but the discussion around having all grade levels on the same floor, and when they came back last week, they had, in their design, they were able to shift some things around and keep all grade level teams together. So somebody wasn't on the second floor and the other two components. I mean, it is truly a two-way street with HSR and this process.
I couldn't make it to that meeting, but yeah, from my last school, we had grade level split up and just explained structurally it makes sense. Collegially, it can be hard. And they said, well, we'll come back and try it. It's good to hear.
Thank you. Okay, let's call the question, Angie.
Chambers?
Yes.
Dahl?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Stefas?
Yes.
Bush?
Yes.
Basting?
Yes. Gordon Bush contract.
Well, in and among everything else that is up this year, all the copiers and printers in the district, we're on a 5-year lease, and that's up this year. I sent out and worked with 3 companies total. Gordon Flesh is the only company that got back to me. They are a current provider, and they're the only ones that got back to me. And in getting back to me, there is a reduction in our monthly lease payment of $300 replacing. We would not replace, there's one unit we're not replacing. And just in that fact alone, it's going to save us $300 per month on the lease, so an $18,000 savings over the course of 5 years. I have not heard any complaints from any staff members about their products, their Canna products, or Lexmark's products. Part of their agreement, part of their lease agreement is the service, all the toners and things. And Angie could probably speak to this a little bit better, but I would say probably 99% of the time when a service call gets sent, we have somebody within 24 hours, if not the same day. So I mean, that's part of that lease payment as well.
Where are they coming out of?
Madison.
Do they process all of their used toner and supplies and stuff like that, or is that something that we dispose of?
We send back a good majority of the toners.
Yeah. What about recycled? What about like paper and shredding? Do they do that for us, or is that a separate contract?
No shredding. We have shredders in-house that we use.
Okay.
And we buy paper.
Someone else?
Yeah, we get bids on paper and get the best rate for that.
Okay, great.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this contract.
So moved.
Second?
So what is the total for this one? I mean, it's basically just 18,000 less than what the last 5-year one was?
Yes.
Okay.
So it'll be, our monthly payment will be $3,392.
That was roughly 3,700 last year?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's call a question, please, Andy.
Dahl?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Stefas?
Yes.
Bush?
Yes.
Chambers?
Yes.
Baston?
Yes. Dean Health Insurance renewal?
I just need approval to sign the proposal from Dean Health with the 5% increase. I just need official board approval, and I can sign it and send it off, and we're locked into that rate.
I make a motion to approve it. Second.
And we have documentation about the maximum increase next year.
Me or Dr. Lindsay?
Which is what? I'm sorry, Andy, just a second.
I don't think we have.
I signed here.
They gave it, I don't know.
No.
That's what I meant.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do you want to?
It'll be no higher than
Well,
five.
you said that's fine.
It's a year, sir.
They say they wouldn't go beyond a certain amount.
That's what I think it could be you, board president, and then I'll sign on the other one. All right, I'm sorry, what was your question?
I just wondered if we had, they gave us the, is it 5.5? No,
Five.
greater than 5.5 next year.
Yeah.
Is that part of,
Is that part of that contract?
Yes.
13. So does that mean that it won't increase by more than 5.5% next year?
Yeah, the maximum increase would be 5.5%. If we have a really good year.
We're not locking in these premiums for 2 years?
No,
Yeah, okay.
but it won't be any more than 5.5. If we have a bad year, it can't be any more than 5.5.
Yeah.
If it's good, it could be less.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's call the question, please.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Stefas?
Yes.
Bush?
yes,
Chambers?
Yes.
Dahl?
Yes.
Dunn?
Abstain.
Baston?
Yes. Okay, approval of school fee schedule.
What you have is the same fee schedule as last year. We have not indicated any increases anywhere, so basically it's the same fee schedule as you had in the 18-19 school year.
Sorry, our lunch just went up 5 cents.
This is for,
Is that the?
this is reduced.
No, that shouldn't have printed in there. I should have taken that out. That's, we talked about taking that out, mentioned, I don't know
So
how
we're then
that
just doing the
got
school
in
fee
here.
schedule.
Right.
It's just the
Okay.
schedule.
And we increased these last year, is that correct?
Correct, there was some increases,
By
yes.
like $5, something like that.
A couple of like the school fee that included an activity pass was increased. There might have been, in the music area, there might have been an increase. And we're looking at the potential of the MacBook insurance. Dependable Solutions has made a suggestion in another district where they have an insurance plan that they've set up where basically if you have, every high school kid gives $150, you've got quite a bit of coverage for replacement fees, screen fees, you know. I will say this, although the MacBook is much more expensive than a Chromebook, the amount of repairs that we've had to do this year pale in comparison to the number of repairs we've done on a Chromebook. I think students understand the cost. I think they understand, just because it has that Apple logo on there, they know the price tag that comes with it. I think they're more careful with their MacBooks than they were with the Chromebooks when they were able, the high school students I'm speaking of, when they could take them home and toss in the locker, toss in the backpack, toss in the back of the car. I think they take better care of it. But that being said, I think we've probably had to replace maybe 4 screens.
So is this per individual student who pays for it? So for example, let's say I'm a high school student, I get a MacBook. If I don't pay the $150 insurance for the year and I break my MacBook, I don't get a new one, I don't get it fixed, right? Or does the school pay for that?
Currently, as it sits, the high school principal's been a really nice guy and split the cost 50-50. So if a screen is $400, I have found $200 in my principal's budget, and then the student pays the $200 and we get the screen fixed. If we offer the insurance and a student doesn't opt to take that, I'm not sure if the next high school principal will split it 50-50 when you had an opportunity to buy the insurance. But
It seems like a lot, 150 per student, doesn't it?
the cost of replacing a screen is about $400 on a MacBook.
Yeah. So, but if you've only replaced 4 this last year, and I'm guessing as they get older, maybe they get more brittle, I don't know. That seems like an awful lot of money. Do we keep the $150 in a fund?
Is it a pot? It's a pot of money that we use?
Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't go to Apple or something?
No,
We don't
this would
pay
stay
for it?
in-house.
Or dependable?
Right, no, this would stay in-house. Dependable, this is a concept, insurance concept they ran in another district, but this money would stay in the school. So if the one was completely broken and it was a brand new one, you're looking at $800 to replace.
So it's optional for all students to pay this? Optional?
Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say, do you know what percentage of students paid this last year?
This was not part of, this is a new piece. That was not part of. And I've had several families say, obviously the several families that have asked are the ones that either, I had a student who luckily was involved in a serious car accident with no injury. Rolled a car into a stream just outside his house, and the MacBook was in the water. It's done.
What's that cost?
$800.
Okay.
I'm wondering, Mitch, if we lower that, maybe get more people to buy in.
What do you think about a MacBook fee that's required,
Right.
except for maybe free and reduced kids?
That's certainly possible.
I don't think $150 is a lot when a lot of these kids are walking around with $400, $500 iPhones.
Yeah.
If I were on the student council, I'd try to get everybody together and say, what if we all pitched in $75 and cut the fee down and have that be the pot, we give it to Mitch to fix, you know, and have everybody try and take care of it so we don't
Well, I think,
blow our pot of money.
I think 75 is too high. If
Well, I'm just-
you take the number of MacBooks times, let's say 30,
Yeah.
I mean, you can do a lot of repairs with that number.
Max got a comment.
Yeah.
So, maybe I missed the comment, but does the money go back to the kids if they don't break it? Is it like a premium or is it just for them?
I guess my question as a parent, is it 150 per year or 150 for the course of their high school?
Per computer?
You know,
That's a
Well,
good question.
you know, like, so it's 150 when it's a freshman, or when they enroll in the high school, is it good for all 4 years? Or are we talking about 600, as a parent, am I talking about $600 over the
Right.
No,
course of
I would
high
think,
school
I would
career?
say $150 period.
Well, do they keep the MacBook all 4 years, ideally?
They do, they check it in the summer,
Could have bought your own MacBook then.
and then,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's checked back out to them the next year.
Okay.
So they, in essence, will have the same MacBook.
So it would
I
be a
would say
one-time fee.
So it'd be a one-time fee of $150.
Whereas you went with like Larry's and it required 30 per year, it's 120 over the course of the 4 years, like that's manageable, but I did, like personally as a parent, I would never pay $150 per year for
I think
4
one
years of a
fee.
MacBook.
One fee per computer.
The question I had though was, Mitch, if they don't break it, do they get that back?
Do they get the 150 back? I would say no.
Okay.
But at the end of the lease, we have the choice of either sending the MacBooks back or basically keep them.
Do we get money from Apple if we send them back?
No.
Do we, I think.
So we get a reduced, we get a lot lower price than what a normal person would pay for that.
What does Apple Care cost? Just curious.
That I don't know off the top of my head.
Still $99.
No, I think it's a little more than that. I want to say like $199 we have on our phones.
Wait, so what did you say, Jeff?
Apple Care.
Apple Care.
Oh, right.
You buy the insurance right from them.
So do we, if you'd prefer 150 one time, this is the first time we're offering it. So a senior's gonna get it for a year, freshman's gonna get it for 4 years. So do we make it just $40?
Well, why wouldn't you, I mean, would it be too much of a pain to like, I had mine for 4 years and never used it, why wouldn't I get that 150 back? I mean, never broke it.
That's the problem with insurance.
Yeah, there you go.
But we're keeping,
I think this is such an important issue that I think we ought to maybe
Take this
scrap
out.
it and let somebody study this and come back with a better
Do you
solution.
think Dependable has other plans, other districts?
I can ask them for more options. You can certainly approve this and remove the MacBook.
Go around
Yeah,
many different
let's
ways.
remove that, but I think we should have Joel's maybe get this out to the public that we're contemplating it, and let's get some feedback.
Well, I would make a motion to approve everything but the MacBook insurance, and that we have further study and discussion.
second that.
Perhaps a better resolution.
So that was on the schedule last year.
It was?
It was,
Yes,
But it
it
didn't
was
occur.
optional though.
it was optional on
Did
the
anybody
schedule.
take it out?
No.
I don't believe anybody did.
None, zero.
Okay.
So somebody's done it.
That I'm aware of. No.
So I mean, I think putting in installations would make it more palatable and would probably protect your budget a little bit. You know,
Maybe it would help.
Well, when do you wish you had house insurance or car insurance? When you needed it, right?
Yeah.
And again, the people are like, geez, you should have insurance for this. Well, the essence was, it was available to you. You didn't take advantage of it, so, but
If we were to add
I mean, I
$10
get it.
to the.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk, we
I'm just gonna say, it
made a
sounds.
motion not to approve this without that, we're bringing back
I'm
to
sure
another year.
motorcycle for $125 for the summer. You know, a two-true motorcycle.
And who made that?
Maybe a
Well,
slow one.
150.
Maybe a
Dr.
slow one.
Lindsay and
Slow and.
The only comment
All right.
So actually, but they're paying $14 a month on their phone
Lindsay.
bill.
I got
Yes.
one more comment.
Oh, wait, it's in there.
If we were just to build this into the fee, the high school 9 through 12 fee for this year, just add another $5 on it just to start a a fund to replace screens or whatever, might be the easiest thing to do. That way everybody is sharing the cost.
If you did that, that would help, and the principal's budget didn't pay for anything,
Yeah.
you would get 2.5 screens. Or 1 MacBook. All right. I mean, but
Can
it's
you put
it's
numbers on
smart.
that? I mean, I think these are great suggestions, you know, do we do a $5 automatic fee? Do we do something a little higher, every year?
Yeah,
for
I
installations?
can,
Yeah.
yep, we can bring that in.
$40 a year.
Yeah.
That way everybody's,
So maybe we should just hold off on the fee schedule till next month.
Well, I think we
Well,
we're
we'll
all
figure
set
out
on
that.
We can do this and leave that one. We'll bring just that one back.
That's what the motion's on.
That's what your motion was.
Yeah.
And Angie's gonna call the question.
And one more comment, are the lunches getting reduced then by 40 cents and 30 cents?
No, that's.
That's for reduced
That's
ones.
what the
That's a price for, they're reduced, yeah.
Okay.
free and
Well, they're going
reduced.
up.
So if you qualify.
And actually, you need to cross that out, Larry, so we're not
I see.
approving that
Okay.
today.
I got you.
Okay, let's call the question.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Okay.
Open enrollments are on the front sleeve of your board packet. And then that's load well into board book. The current requests, it's a total of 37 as it sits right now. Open enrollees in. And that will be that very affectionate term of 37 butts in seat, but it won't be 37 students added to the enrollment. Because your early childhood and 4K count for less than a full student, 6/10 of a student and half a student and all those fun calculations.
These are just new,
These are new.
new requests.
New requests
Not
in.
Any currently open enrolled.
Anybody currently in, does not have to do that. Does not have to go through that process again, correct?
So we're
You have 5 to 9 also, right?
we're denying all special ed kids. No room for them.
I would
No
defer that
respondents on
answer to
special
the Director of Pupil Services.
Oh, in process.
You for special ed? Oh, is that what that means?
Yes, I'm sorry.
We're denying all the special ed kids.
You passed that in January, that we set program limits at the January board meeting, so that we did not incur any additional costs.
So are we at program, we're at program limits for every grade?
Yes.
So we can't accept what happens if a new student moves in?
That's why the program limits are set the way they are, is taking the current,
What are our program limits?
I would go back to the January board meeting, but I believe DC was 8. Elementary, I believe, was 10 recommended.
How many?
8 early childhood. I believe, thank you. Elementary class categorical K2 is 10 students, grades 3 through 5 is 10 students, middle school is 12, and high school is 15.
So K2 is 10 students, and we have how many special ed teachers there? One.
Right now, we have 1, yes, and she, I believe, has 11 on her caseload.
That's great. And then, what do you got, 3-5 then?
And she has 12 on her
And
caseload.
that's one teacher, right? They each have an 8.
It's just based upon what's on their caseload, and then there's always, making an error, because we know that evals are going on, we know that students might move into the district.
But are they co-teaching?
The program limits were established before any of the staffing was done, because this has to be established at the January board meeting.
Okay.
So we would make different recommendations next year based upon that staffing number, but these were made with our current staffing. But by statute, it has to be established in January.
Can you explain referral and process?
It means that there was, they're considering whether the student is eligible for special education services, but the evaluation has not been completed yet. So for instance, if a student is 3 or 4, and they might be considering it, they can apply for open enrollment, but you can't attend unless you were to be found with a need for special education, because no other 3-year-olds go to school. So the open enrollment is you have to have comparable programs between the district. So the only reason that child would come is if he had an IEP, because that's the only way he would attend his home district as well. And so that's one of the boxes on the open enrollment is, are they currently identified with an IEP or a 504 plan, or is there an evaluation being considered for those services?
If you look at the first kind of light purple lavender color, I don't know if this is the case because the names are blacked out, but assuming that they are brother, sister, 2 brothers, 2 sisters in that third grade.
Each color is a family.
Okay, perfect, thank you, Elaine. So the 3 and the 7, you also have set up that you won't separate families. So if you see siblings also applying, so if you vote and you were to deny the 3rd grade and accept the 7th grade, you've also said that you're not splitting up a family as well, so you have to take that into consideration, that if you accept one of the brothers or sisters, you're also accepting all of them in the open enrollment.
So what we have here is a process right now, but this will change. Here where the school starts, I mean, will all these kids attend?
Not all of these kids will choose to attend.
Right. Because of deadlines, they just want to get their name in.
They have to get their name in so that they have the option.
The option.
But you can apply for up to
Yeah, they can apply to other school districts as
You
well.
can apply for 3 schools for open enrollment, so some of those families might have applied to 2 other districts as well. And then they have to choose, or they can choose which one they're going to then at that point, or to remain where they are.
Yeah, we won't, this is, we're thinking maybe Mineral Point,
Okay.
but we don't know until August 26th shows up, and that's our first day of school, and the kids actually walk through the door.
Actually, on the form we ask, they have to send out a form that tells them whether they were accepted or not. And then they're supposed to send back the form by June 25th or something like that, saying whether they will be coming. But they can still change their mind, and if they show up on the first day of school and we've accepted them, then they are our student.
Wow. Question, Andy?
Yeah, so how does that work then? We have the limitations we set in January, and we have the policy that says one comes, you all come. So does the state limitations trump board policy that says we take the whole family?
Well, I don't think our limitations are state limitations. They really don't.
I thought we had to set them in January.
There isn't really, the state, there's a formula they use, but there isn't really they're gonna say that each teacher has 10 kids. They're not gonna say that.
Right. I thought we had to, per the state, we had to set them in
Well,
January. No?
per our staffing is what we set the limits at.
Okay.
And our staffing has changed from the January meeting where we had to set those numbers. You know, Ken, a special ed teacher, and
You have to establish the limits in January, if you're going to establish them. If you don't do it in January, you can't establish limits any other time of the year. It has to be done at the board meeting in January, yes.
so,
That's what the state says.
and we know our staffing is a little different now. So you can take that into consideration, you know. Somebody's got 12, is it possible for them to have 13 students on their caseload? Yeah, it probably is. If someone's got 10, is it possible for them to have 11? Yeah, it probably is. I mean, you can take all those things into consideration.
So we can override our January staffing?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, that was just based on your staffing in January, here are the things that we said. We had a family that tried to put in the paperwork in February, is that right? That there was a family that wanted to come.
The emergency rule?
Right. And,
Yes.
and because one of the students was going to be in a closed class, closed grade level, we couldn't accept that.
That's what's happened.
We couldn't accept any of them under the emergency conditions. Because that section was gonna be closed. So in other words, it's not like you're in the draft lottery and, hey, here's a really good kid. We've closed this section, but you're a really good kid, so we're gonna pull you in anyways. So it's kind of like if it's closed for one, it's closed for all. So that's why we had to tell that family.
And then it's closed the remainder of the year. It doesn't come into the alternative, the exception thing later on that you can start in July 1st. You can start another process of open enrollment. It's called the alternative open enrollment process. But it still applies to the rules that you set in January.
Right.
But if they're 6'6" and can dunk the ball, you can take them?
That's your exception to the rule.
And we can't enforce that exception until the July enrollment period?
No, the rules that you make in January are for all year long. What I'm saying is that there's a new type of open enrollment that starts in January or in July, but the rules that you made in January still apply for that open enrollment.
When can the board override the rules they set in January, if at all?
You can set new rules in the next January.
Okay, so.
And part of me does, I don't know the stipulations and know all of that, but I agree that, you know, Mitch's comment that our staffing has changed for next year after those rules were, after the limitations were set. You know, obviously we have 2 new teachers that we didn't know about in January. So I think that was Tony's question, like, you know, if it was a middle school student, we now have 2 teachers versus when I presented them in January, we had 1 teacher who was already has, you know, 14 students on her caseload, and with referrals in-house or people moving in-house, we said we can't take more. Well, now we have 2 teachers. So I mean, I don't know, but I think that's what Mitch was saying, that because of our staffing needs, maybe you consider differently when you vote today than those board limits that you did establish.
So we have the ability to accept the students that currently say deny that have siblings also applying.
Yes.
I will make a motion that we accept all students on here that are accepted, plus those students who currently are in deny status that have siblings also attending.
I'll second that.
So are we gonna increase that?
Tony's there looking at me like.
Are we gonna increase the, you know? Okay, so I see several special ed kids on here, okay, and most of them are, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 at the elementary. Does that mean that you're saying we accept them and then increase our students up to 5 at the elementary? And then what's that's gonna do to our current staff? They're not gonna be half caseloads of 15. That's ridiculous.
So if I understand Andy's motion, there would be 2 students that you would stay in the denial because they don't have a sibling applying.
I think they all have siblings, don't they?
No, there's 2 that.
If you look under siblings also applying, there's a 3rd grader in Dodge.
Oh, I was just looking at colored pairings. I
Okay,
see.
there's 3.
So the whites are not paired.
Okay, Dodgeville.
No, whites are individuals.
Yeah.
So there's a 3rd grader from Dodgeville
It's not a
and a
white.
kindergartner from Pecatonica that do not have siblings applying.
Correct.
So you're not breaking up families.
1, 2,
3, yes.
So there's 3 students, a
3,
6th
3.
grader and EC.
you're gonna have 3 more kids
Blue and the pink.
in special ed.
With 3 different teachers, correct?
Sixth grade would be, yes, but 3 and
2
6.
third graders and then a child with surgery.
Yeah, we'd have one more additional in each.
Yeah, we just created co-teaching with our 2 new staff members.
How do you feel about us?
The only one that I'm really concerned about, I think there's 2. I don't know which student it is. There's some that have related services that are contracted services. So just so you guys are well aware, you'd be taking on additional costs with a physical therapist or an occupational therapist or those related services. And those have always been kind of closed here because we contract out with Upland Hills. And so that's kind of one of the, even last year, you had closed any student who has an additional related contracted service, we don't accept so that we don't increase our related service contracts. And I know there's one student, at least I believe, that when we looked at an IEP had physical therapy.
He's a
And that's, so that's my only other, and I think Elaine said he was a single student anyway, so he would still be in denial. My other one is the early childhood age student. Our early childhood section currently has 8 students in it already in the morning, plus a 4-year-old that teacher supports during his time at school. And all of those students still remain next year. And they're fairly high, students that like next year they will have 2 assistants working with 2 of those students directly. So bringing in another student into early childhood might be very overwhelming for our teacher. Because you're talking about 9 or 10 3- and 4-year-olds then. But if that's what you guys vote to do, obviously we'll make it work. But that's the one that I kind of worry about because we have had kind of a big growth in students that we've identified in early childhood this year. Of age 3.
I think what you're sensing is we're having a hard time rejecting kids who want to come here.
And I get that. I mean,
Right.
in the part in every school, I mean, I understand obviously we want as many students as we can come, as do I, but I want to make sure that, as we just said, those students tend to have a higher cost need, and I want to be reflective and make sure that we're not incurring, and that's why they allow special ed to set different limits than everyone else, so that we can make sure that we're not taking on students that are going to end up costing us more than what we get through the open enrollment process, to be honest.
Only get $12,000 per student, it's not like.
Yeah.
And we can't use transfer services on those students.
Not on open enrollment, no. That's only for students who move into the district.
Okay.
And kids that have contracted therapy services, we can't transfer their services to Upland Hills that we already have a contract with?
Well, no, I mean, we can add to our contract, but I just want to make sure you guys realize then that you're adding, I don't think we voted on Upland Hills contracts yet, but, if their contract is presented that it's $20,000, and then we accept these we accept the student, that contract is going to be beyond because it's a new student that's not budgeted for in that contract. So contracted service has always been one that historically has been closed, just because we established those contracts this year, and it's one way to manage the costs, that you're not incurring more costs in your department.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I thought we could use transfer services.
Okay, then does, you want to withdraw your second?
I beginning to believe that's it.
Okay, so we'll take it off the table.
You want to make a comment?
Andy just drew his motion. I would just say that, it's very admirable that we want to bring in all these kids. When you spread out the services, then you might be decreasing the support for the kids we already have. So that's just something else. It's kind of the flip of that coin.
Well, I think we need to be sensitive to that too. We don't want to stretch our staff to the point where quality goes down.
Right.
And you're exactly right.
And
So,
I feel like the program limits we established were valid enough,
My comment is this: we are approving most everyone that, unless they have an IEP.
and that is,
And that to me,
if you look,
that to me is not right. I'm sorry, I don't think, you have even if it was one kid at an IEP, and we're saying we don't wanna.
But Tony, in January, we had limits.
I
And
know
and
that's
So
special
we're respecting the
education
limits.
is, other than the numbers per section, special education is the only area where you can establish a limit.
I think it's wrong.
Well, but if you create a rule, how do you bend the rule? You know what I mean?
Well, we had an extra staff member too, so that our limits should be different than it was in January.
But we also have more kids in the district that sound like we're gonna need
Yeah.
some more help.
Yeah, we're
So
not
We always,
anticipating.
we always,
that.
like this year, I mean, I don't remember the number,
We've
but
had
I
this
mean, at the
discussion.
beginning of the year, we
Every
had,
year.
At least one.
I would say at least a half dozen students move into the district because
That's
that also, you know, I mean, we had a lot of kids move into
They
the
can't
district
because
this
of
year
the
with
January
IEPs.
thing. I
Right.
voted against that like 5 years in a row because of the special ed we blocked them all.
Okay, wait a minute, so, I mean, I'm just wondering if we can customize this approval even further. Because it seems like now that we've expanded special ed staff in certain grades, like for example, middle school, we now went from 1 to 2 teachers, that increases our capacity for those grades. For special ed, correct?
For K through 5 and 6 through 8, our capacity is increased, yes,
Okay, but not early childhood.
but not early
We have
childhood.
8 children and 2 aides in the early childhood group. Is that
I have
correct?
8 children and 1 aide this year. But we also started this year with 2 students in early childhood, and we now are at 8.
So can we approve denials in grades that we have capacity, special ed capacity for them?
Mitch?
Do you know what I mean? I mean, if we can't handle another early childhood kid, I'm more comfortable denying that based on our staffing and capacity. But if we have capacity for a 6th grade kid, I'm okay approving that.
And
Does that make sense? Can we do that?
that's Tony's comment, and I
Yeah,
just, you know, like,
Well,
when
I'm
the,
sensitive to that, you know. we
no,
don't try to-
absolutely, when the
we wanna
programs
make
were
this
established in
begin.
January, we were where we were in January, and now we're in a different place. I don't know.
What is that January thing? What is that?
It's, the state tells you it has to be done in January, I don't know why.
The name of it, or what is it?
It's just the open, it's Act
Open enrollment
55 with open enrollment. It's related to Act 55, so Tony, if you want to look it up.
And you said we have in-house kids that are gonna need more needs next year also.
Well, I mean, you know the staff that we added throughout the year this year, so, you know, I mean, those students are still here, and we always have students move in, and we always are identifying new students, so.
We don't know what these IEPs are. We don't know if they're ID or BED.
We can
or-
see them. We can request copies of the IEP so that we can see the services that are on them, yes. So Elaine and I have looked at them.
So you know what they are.
Yes, to a sense, I mean, I can't rattle them off the top of my head.
But I can answer you.
I mean, is that something?
To answer Dr. Dunn, if you were allowed, I would agree that if you could craft it so that now you say our early childhood program is full, we're not allowing that, but except at the elementary and except at the middle school, I would be comfortable with that, but I don't know how.
Would you be more comfortable if we could just approve this as is tonight, and then you can come back in June with a more, because by then you'll know more of the in-house plus?
I don't know if I can like, if we can go back and change the limits that were set in January.
I don't think we can.
I don't
And
think
we have
we can either.
deadlines that we have
Well, I'm not
to.
asking you to change what we did in January.
Oh,
I'm just
Did
asking
we-
if we
Just
can.
asking to approve, but maybe deny.
Can you tell me what
Well, I
the,
like what Manny said. He said out loud what I would think.
I believe that we have to have the letter to the parents, whether we approve or deny, by June 8th, 5th, 8th. There's a deadline, there's
Okay.
deadlines we have to meet all the way through this.
can you tell me what the IEP, what the disability is in the IEP for the Dodgeville student, or is that too much in open session?
I'm not sure I would be
Okay.
comfortable
Yeah,
with
all
talking
right.
about it
Yeah,
on
no.
open session,
All right.
no.
because that makes a difference too.
But you guys also know what those IEPs are, correct?
We do. Elaine has gathered them all and we reviewed the services
So who
that are on
actually is the
them.
one that decided to do the denials?
Elaine asked me. And she went through the board limit, like what we established in
Right.
January, and then talked with me about what was on the services on the IEP. And so we went through each one and looked at the services and how they aligned with the board limits that were established.
So you've done all of that process?
Yes.
And so,
And that's how it ended up with the yes or no.
So just, okay,
so that if you make the motion to accept the proposal as is, then there are several of these that have a sibling that would be denied as well.
right. I would be in favor of,
3.
I would be in favor of approving
Yes.
the denials in the grades where we have staffing capacity. If you're comfortable with that motion.
Sure.
Well, why do you
No.
hesitate? Because you don't, there's too many unknowns
No, it's fine.
with who's moving into the district?
I mean, you know,
How many new students?
I actually, the more
moved into the
uncomfortable
district
part of
last
it
year?
is not the students. It's making sure that we're not violating something that we said in January, because I just don't know if, I'm assuming we can do that, Mitch feels like we can do that, and I'm comfortable with that. I just,
Well, I
Should we-
think too, it has been a consideration is what, we were talking about. Sometimes, how many kids do we end up with at the start of the school
Yeah.
year?
I think there were 8
That
that did
show
at
up
the beginning of the school
at
year.
registration.
Right.
So,
Then you're,
And
then
that-
you're going over the top.
that's kind of all part of the factor of
And
the
that's what
program
supplements,
limits
right, for
too.
open enrollment is to protect us, to give us that flexibility.
Right.
Yeah, and that's part of why,
Students
you know,
move
that,
in.
that's one part of the establishing program limits that we take into account, that we know that we'll have kids
So you're-
move into
we-
the
We
district,
would have to.
that will identify
deny
new
the
ones.
whole
There's a
thing.
good chance that some of these
I
may
think
move
that's
into
what
the
we have to
district.
do.
You know what, I actually do guarantee that some of these, if they were able to find housing, would move into the district, yes. If they were able to find housing in Mineral Point. But to answer your question, Dr. Dunn, yes, I'm comfortable with outlining it that way. And it's not the students that scare me, it's just making sure we're not violating the limits that were established in January.
Okay. I mean, could the motion be contingent on the fact that this is legally allowed?
I would assume that it is, I mean, I don't know,
Well,
Mr.
we're gonna
Winger, do you have any?
Yeah, we would have to get, I'd have to get you.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, we're not gonna assume,
We're not gonna break any state
Yeah, and
laws.
that's, I mean, that is my only hesitation. If we, as you guys have pointed out, our staffing is changed at the elementary K-5 level and the middle school level.
If we approve this tonight and you guys hit 6 extra move in, basically, and we have 6 more come in, we're gonna be short staffed.
You're gonna ask us to hire more staff, probably, right?
Assistants.
Assistants.
But it never, it depends on what they're moving in and what their services are for too. So I mean,
But the
if there were 6 speech students, we'd be able to roll that in fine. If there were 6 students with, significant behavioral needs, then yeah, we're gonna come asking you for more.
I think the safest direction to go, while not necessarily the best, you gotta look at this, we should be honored that all these people want to come to our school district, or at least are applying for the potential to come, but in the essence of not breaking up a family, you need to vote, and anywhere there's a denial, because the program is filled, we have to deny the sibling open enrollment as well.
Do you recommend that we approve this as is with all the IEP denials?
Yes. Based on the fact that we have to get a letter out before our next board meeting, so we don't have an opportunity at a regular board meeting to come back with that information. I could certainly try to find out the answer to the question of our staffing has changed, can we change our January? Is that allowable under law? I can figure that information out, but we're not going to deny the one student with an IEP, but accept the brother or sister with not an IEP. So we would say to that family,
Can't we though? Not that I am advocating for it, but I think our policy is that if there is a brother in a capped class, that we could accept them.
Right.
It's not saying you have to know that they become all no's. I think the policy is more to.
Well, I thought that was the not breaking up the family.
Well,
That's, so you would allow that student in the capped class to come in and increase that enrollment. That was, I remember that discussion at the board. So if sixth grade is filled, but there's a first, a third, and a sophomore, and we say, yes, we're taking the student in the capped class and adding one more.
So you're saying if we were to say yes to the other two, then we would have to exceed our special ed limit?
Right. So I would say to
just deny.
To deny it all,
Families.
right, because we don't want to break up families, we don't want to break up siblings like that, and that special ed definitely has the cap on it.
I see what you're saying. So if we accept the non-IEP kids in the family by board policy, we would have to override our limit and accept the IEP kid.
We've done that in the past.
Assuming it's legally allowed.
Right, but it's not been, it hasn't necessarily been with an IEP. It's been a student, if we said the third grade is closed, because the board policy says 20.
We have to accept the kid.
Yeah, we have brought that student in because the school board has not wanted to break the family
I
up.
think you're right, but it's never been a special ed.
Correct, and with these circumstances, I think you go the opposite way then, and if we're denying because of the IEP, because that is capped, we would deny the sibling open enrollment. So we're not breaking that family up.
So my question is that if we can approve this as is, and then we find out from legal opinion that we could change because of the staffing, we could have a special meeting.
Correct, you could do that.
To move this along.
So do you send that regular student a denial letter? Or do you give the family the option?
I would ask the open enrollment expert to hold off until I can get an answer to your question before sending that letter out.
Don't we approve the
I
regular?
don't think we made a rule saying that we would deny the whole family based on one special ed kid. I think that we say we can't. My understanding of the rule we made is that we would say no to the special ed child, say yes to the regular ed, and it's the parent, up to the parent whether they want to split them up and send one to one school and one to another. Chances are they won't, and that's really what you're talking about, is that we don't have to split families.
I don't think we can deny based on.
We're not denying on special ed, we're denying them because they're closed. And it happens to be special ed.
This does seem relatively important. I wonder if we had just schedule a meeting during one of the building committee meetings or something. If there's 4 of us here to approve it, then let Angela, Elaine, Mitch go back and get a little more clarity on some of this.
Something more, and we can call a special meeting if we have to.
Sure, if you want to table this, we can do that.
I feel like we gotta get it right.
I do too.
So you're okay with
Without a doubt.
tabling?
Yeah,
Dr. Dunn, you're okay with tabling?
I'm okay with tabling it, and we gotta know what the deadline is.
I don't know, I'm gonna say June 5th, June 8th, something like that. It's required that we have the letters out.
We'll coordinate that with Mitch and he can let us know when we can have a meeting by. Or we could even meet right before the graduation ceremony possibly.
I won't be here for that because of my graduation at Shelburne, and I'm here advisors.
So you kind of get the spirit of this. We want
I
to
do.
accept these kids, but we don't want to overtax our staff,
Yep.
especially in certain grades that maybe are understaffed. And wherever we can absorb kids, we'd like to make an exception.
I was telling Tony,
Appreciate your recommendations on that.
there has been a lot of discussion on the limit set over the ever since we've been doing it.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's ever since.
Yeah. There's been a lot of discussion.
For all levels.
For all levels, yeah.
Not just special.
And mostly, I feel that we're a publicly funded school, and if any kid really wants to come to our school, we should open the door and let them come.
But we also got to protect our.
I understand that too, yeah.
Okay, we're moving on. Number 9.
We're gonna have a motion to table that.
Oh, sorry.
I'll make a motion to
Oh,
motion to table.
We're
Open and roll.
To table.
who made the motion?
Larry made a motion.
Tony is second. Let's go question.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Dr. Lindsay had to step out, Asting.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Move on to number 9, approval of geotech study.
One of the things that HSR brought to us was doing the site borings. They had 4 companies give a bid. The lowest bid was $9,900 and the highest bid was $20,565. These are the spots where they're asking for the borings to be done outside of the building. And then on mine, it's colored, but it doesn't show up here, but you see like a S10, an S8, an S6. These are inside the building. And they would do site borings inside the building in these locations. They would like this done as soon as possible.
Did they give you a recommendation?
They gave us a recommendation for CGC. They are not the cheapest, they are the second lowest bid at $13,340. And the reason Nate and Everett were both there, one of the biggest reasons they recommend them, quality work and their turnaround time to get the reports back to HSR. I think, I've said it multiple times, I know Nate has said it, I know HSR has said it. Getting an answer to this is the #1 question that I'm sure all of you want to answer to, and everybody in the community wants an answer to, because this will tell them this is a $20,000 fix or a $20 million fix. This will give them that information. So based on HSR's suggestion that we go with CGC, I'm bringing that proposal to you tonight, that we accept that bid at $13,340. So they would do all of these spots outside of the school, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inside the building.
After school down.
No, during the school year.
No, like,
They would come in every week.
They want to do it.
Yeah. Come in at night, come in on the weekend, come in sometime to get that done.
Okay, so how disruptive would that be?
Not at all.
It'll be, they'll have it contained. I mean, it's not like they're gonna drive a machine in. It'll be a portable unit for the interior. Exterior, probably maybe a different story, depending how deep they can go before they have bedrock, but they reassured us that things will be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not gonna knock a hole in the drive. It's in the ground. It's not a huge hole. It's
In a classroom?
a core sample.
Correct.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
these are
so-
dumb questions, I've never.
No, so you won't even notice it.
Is the floor replacement part of that 13,000?
Well, he would if you told him where it was.
Well, for CGC, I don't know if they would cap that hole, but that's a question to follow up with. I wouldn't think they would leave it open like that, but.
And we didn't ask them how big it is, but I'm assuming like a 4-inch
Yeah, if it's like,
diameter or something.
I mean, there were, you
3 or
can
4
see in the
inch.
hallway, there's a couple of plates that look like they're about this big. That's where they had done that boring inside years ago.
Okay. That's all I want to know.
The other thing they said about this firm, I don't know if you mentioned, was that they're quicker than all the rest of the firms.
Yep.
And then also that they coordinate the future work, and that so that they match the core samples with what people are supposed to be doing. So they keep all these samples so that people have to specify that their work is within the parameters of what they found. And then they do additional testing as people are doing the construction that is included with this initial bid. So,
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any other comments? Call the question, please.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Baston.
Yes. Okay, 3D imaging.
Oh, yeah, never heard of it.
HSR said there's really only one company that does this type of work, and this is the R.A. Smith contract. In essence, bless you. This is the lower level of the building, and they will do basically 3D imaging. They'll be able to tell if the floor is moving, if the walls are moving, how much they're moving. And in essence, it's a tripod set up in the middle of the room, and was it like 10,000 cloud points basically that they're getting? So that they will get as accurate information as possible on what's happening to the building in these areas. So they'll
Over what time
know.
period?
This can be done, like, I think overnight, you know, they could come and just do this.
Programs it all up, so they take this from room to room, and it gives, you know, so if that wall is out of plumb by a ½ inch, here but not here, it'll calculate all that, and kind of put it in a
Yeah, it's an
program.
internal CAD scan, it's just amazing.
But it's a snapshot in time. It doesn't show how
Well,
things are moving or at what rate they're moving.
No, show
It's
like
just
right, what it
out
is,
of alignment.
what it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's
also
probably
do
the thing
this
from that,
thing.
they can probably figure out what's going to happen.
Between that with the core, they will be able to tell exactly.
Yeah, so if
It's a
that's settled
combination
up
of
there,
both.
that corner and that
I wasn't
wall.
at the last meeting, but that was.
yeah, because he actually pointed out there's several walls that are moving, not just the ones that we can see visibly that they've determined, so this will give an accurate, nice little measurement of the displacement that's occurred.
This area in green is basically the west end of the original building. And when they added on, that's where they're thinking, that's the reason why some of the water is diverting under the building. And I have heard that in my tenure here several times, that they think water is diverted under the building. So that's why this area on the lower level is the area that they would like to do this 3D scanning in. And then on the upper
That
level,
was the original.
it's a smaller section of rooms, about half the size, but they would go on that upper level and do the same thing there. So they would get a true sense of
That's correct.
what's happening to that building. And that's the section that's causing the most problems.
I'll move to approve this project, 3D project.
Second.
$7,000.
Call the question, 18, please.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Baston.
Yes. Move on to business services, credit card, and approval of the bills.
Put those together.
Yes.
Move that we approve the credit card statements and the bills payable.
Second.
Thank you. We have some questions.
I was looking for a Gordon Flesh expense in the bill, I didn't see one. You mentioned, do we pay that annually?
No, monthly lease payment. And it might be when it comes through, but
Yeah, because it might be.
The trip to FFA Nationals, does FFA have a budget that they pay for that out of, or when there's a special honor like that, is there some kind of miscellaneous budget that comes out of?
no, the FFA has some deep pockets. They have some of their fundraising, some of those things help pay for that.
Yeah, that's good, so that's all,
Yep.
that's all within their circle of funds.
Always good.
Yeah, that's good.
I know they do, Larry, because a couple of the other companies that came and wanted to put in a bid asked to see like some monthly payments, and I was able to go to and just pull out like last month's bill and show them. It might be when the billing cycle comes through that we don't have one in this month's billing for some reason.
So Mitch, when we get the $7,000 bill from Seaside, is that part of our contracted services?
They bill quarterly?
Yes.
So I believe so.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense.
And then there are some programs are part of our fee, some are not, that we
Right.
buy additional services, but yeah,
But they bill that
quarterly,
just as services?
yes.
So are we, just a general question, are we verifying we're being billed
That's why they went to
at
quarterly.
our contracted rate?
Yes.
Yeah, they used to do it all kind of annually, and then districts were looking closely at their bills and seeing that they, San Francisco wasn't really here on all the dates or whatever, so they did move to quarterly for that reason, so they actually do pull directly from logs and
That's
whatnot.
awesome.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any other questions? Okay, let's call a question, please.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Basting.
Okay, employment services, Roll High School principal contract.
I don't know if you want to table this and come up, and because it's in your closed session.
Okay. it's a
Move that we
session,
table
let's do that.
the high school principal contract.
I'll second it.
Wait until we come out of closed session?
Yes.
Till we come out of closed session. Table until we come out of closed
Okay.
session.
Yeah, so we don't really need to table it right now, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we don't need to,
Yeah.
we're gonna come back.
Okay, no motion needed.
So then you need a motion to go to closed session. Motion to
I'll
go to
make
closed
motion.
session.
Yeah, I'll make motion to go to closed session. Did you just do it?
You're gonna second it.
I'm gonna second
Whoever,
it.
thanks, Nate. You bet. Roll call.
Whoever wants to do it.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Basting.
Yes.